Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast, episode 82. Connor, welcome back. Co-host, as always. How's it going? How are you today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm very excited for this week's episode. A lot came out within the last hour and a half.
CinemaCon.
And just I was kind of because it's been really slow this last month. In general, there hasn't been a lot of news, and for the last couple weeks, it's just been there's nothing until a day prior to us streaming. And I was like, CinemaCon's coming up, maybe get some trailers, and we did get some trailers, but I feel like most of it, I felt like Paramount this year was yes, we're going to carry this
so
con.
Much out. It's like Paramount, I think, just has enough stuff they can show, because if you look with WB, a lot of the stuff they were talking about, they can't show yet. They had Superman stuff, but they had no footage to show, all that sort of stuff. And even the logo, I think the logo leaked. I don't think that was officially supposed to release. Yeah,
I heard a theater had put that out, a theater posted it from the con, and we're like, hey, we weren't supposed to be doing that, but since you did it, we'll do it too.
Yeah, I didn't put the picture in my video because I was like, that might be a leak. I don't want to be pushing things or anything like that.
But yeah, Marvel and DC, I think, are both in a weird spot for films because I don't think any of their stuff. It's I think Marvel has too much stuff that they can't show, and DC they don't got anything yet really to show. So they're both in weird spots. So now it's all these other companies, not these indie companies. Clearly they're not indie, but some of the smaller ones that aren't Marvel and DC. But
I mean, I know. Obviously, it's not a movie, so it wouldn't be at CinemaCon. But I'm surprised we haven't seen anything from Creature Commandos yet. Any proper
that's this
footage,
year.
right? I thought.
Yeah, what, 8 months or so?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Which is insane to say. Just
probably less. I'd say they're probably going to aim for October, November, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so probably 6 months, 7 months.
Yeah, October. Yeah, because I think it's October is when they said it's coming.
Yeah,
which it's just a hype time for DC because you got Penguin, Joker, that Superman, and Lois. DC's thriving in the fall. Which is nice because that's how the Arrowverse stuff used to operate. It used to be hey, here's 4 shows in the fall, enjoy. But yeah, so we are talking about some of our favorite franchises, and this is kind of one I've wanted to do for a little while now. And the whole pitch of this episode was kind of we talk a lot about Marvel, we talk a lot about DC, we talk about Star Wars and Disney, and a lot of those big franchises, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about not necessarily the smaller franchises because we have big franchises here, but maybe talk about
Star Trek small. You saying it doesn't count?
That's the whole reason I said it wasn't small because we're Connor's not gonna if I call Star Trek a small franchise. But we don't talk. I mean, I guess you do now, but we don't talk a lot about Star Trek. We don't talk a lot about The Walking. A lot of and give a chance to some of these franchises we don't always talk about as much as we do for Marvel and DC. So I thought that would be a really fun. I'm super excited to be able to dive in because I think we have a very interesting list of shows and movies to talk about later on. But yeah, let's kind of just hop into today's episode. Big week for news. And let's start with good old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. A rated R live action The Last Ronin film is in the works. This one
R-rated.
I am so excited for this. So do you know this story? Do you know this comic book story, or are you not as aware with this one?
Basics. I know of it, and I probably would know very basic plot elements if I kind of if you said them to me, I'd be oh, I remember hearing about that sort of thing. Sure. But it's not something I'm too familiar with.
Sure. This was one because I personally haven't read the comics, but I think just purely on the talk of this project over the years, I've been so incredibly excited. Last year they had put out that they're doing a game of this story, that they're doing a video game. I think it's for the PS5, which was very exciting to me because I do love this story. A quick summary, again, I haven't read it, but just from things I've heard, the idea is that 3 out of the 4 turtles have been killed, murdered, and it's left up to the last living one to take up the mantle. He uses their weapons, he uses all of their past trainings and morals, stuff like that, to avenge their killer. And from what I understand, the kind of whole point of the comic is you don't know which turtle is the one that's left standing until the end of the comic. So the idea is that, you have to figure out which one it was, because they don't have the mask on now. They don't have all this thing that they it's Michelangelo, it's Donatello. So you kind of have to find out who it is by the end of the comics, which I think, everyone knows which one it is now because it's been out for a while. But I think that concept is so cool that I almost think maybe even a movie might be able to do that a little bit better than the game, because I think, not better, but I think it's going to be a lot more mainstream. I think it's going to be them being able to tell that story. The thing that is just crazy to hear is like a rated R Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, like how times have changed, how we're in a world. I mean, you're not like a big like Turtles fan, right? You're kind of on the outside of it.
I've tried getting into them a lot, but just like, I mean, I watched the animated stuff when I was a lot younger, like the 80s cartoon and then the 2003 cartoon. And I've seen the first of the newer films, so like the 2014, 2013 one, the one that was before the one Stephen Amell was in. And then I've seen the new one, obviously, I don't know, this reminds me like vaguely of like that Power Rangers 15-minute film, whereas like the gritty one that was like years later, where they're all getting shot at and killed and stuff like that. It reminds me of that. But I mean, like when you brought up the game, that's actually how I know this. I was like, this sounds really familiar, and then you mentioned the game, and I was like, that's it. The game's coming out.
No, I agree. I also think this one feels more like I think Ninja Turtles can get really dark. Like there's a genre of the Turtles. Obviously, most people think of it being like the fun and loving Turtles, but like a lot of those comics get really dark. Like they are based on like Daredevil and like stories like that, which is inherently really dark. So I actually really like the idea where you could have your like Mutant Mayhem, which is not all dark. I assume we'll tackle some darker themes, but that is mainstreamed for children and like your younger audience. And then over here you could be like, oh yeah, so this turtle just like killed 50 people and he's on a rampage because he misses his brother. Like I think that's a really cool avenue to take. Again, this is like goes down as one of people's favorite like turtle stories, so I'm very curious to see how they go about it. The only thing I'm slightly concerned about is the live action element, because I think Turtles can work in live action. I mean, I love the old like 90s films. I think those films are incredibly fun. That first one is like one of my favorite films of all time. I love that movie. But I do think after the Michael Bay stuff, I am concerned. I am concerned. I didn't love those movies. I think
they were weird. I don't think they worked very well.
No, I mean, I enjoyed. They're a piece of my like teenagehood. So I hold like I do hold a little bit of standard to them, but like they weren't good. They weren't great, and I do think they ultimately like kind of missed the point of like the Turtles. Like they don't feel like teenagers at all when you get like these 40-year-old men voicing these characters, and I feel like there's so much like spectacle. They take a lot of that heart out that I love from the Turtles. I wasn't a huge fan of them. Not to say that live action can't work, because I can see it working. I'm just curious how they go about this and what route they go with this one. So I'll be very curious.
Maybe it'll be the greatest thing ever. Who knows?
Who knows? That. I'm also curious what the box office for this is going to look like, because again, like
I would imagine not a lot, right? If it's R-rated. Because I feel like a good deal of the fan base would not be able to go see an R-rated film.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, like obviously they're a big staple of like the 90s, which are now in their 30s and stuff. So that there's definitely an audience for it. But like mainstream, I think Turtles is often thought about like, yeah, the whole family can go see it. Like I felt like a lot of the audience of the original or the newest film were families, were kids. They're marketing for all the toys and stuff like that. So I think it'll be interesting. I kind of almost feel like that was kind of in line with like the Power Ranger movie they did back in 2017, where like they marketed much older, and not that kids couldn't have gone seen it, but like they're definitely trying to market to a different audience, and I don't feel like the audience was fully there for it. They're like, no, we kind of just want our OG Power Rangers. I don't know. Like it's I'll be very curious to see kind of what direction we go.
I mean, is this confirmed to be theatrical? Because I know Paramount Plus are really trying to get into streaming films now.
Oh,
like, a lot of their upcoming slate is streaming only. So I'm wondering if, like, is this confirmed to be theatrical, or is this streaming only? Was this at CinemaCon? Because I think CinemaCon is only... Okay, I think CinemaCon is just theatrical films.
Theatrical, yeah.
Because they talked about the Star Trek Origin film, and that's theatrical. The Star Trek film coming out this year is streaming, and they didn't talk about that at all.
Yeah.
So I think, it's just...
Smurfs and Transformers, I would assume, especially with them being live action, like...
Sure, yeah.
live action,
Paramount's really trying to go with streaming films now, like
yeah,
going forward, I think.
which I think is a gamble because I don't know how well that streaming service is doing. Like I've heard
Yeah,
it's not doing great.
yeah.
So
It's going to merge with something else pretty soon, I would imagine.
yeah, that's what I've heard. But yeah, I am a little bit worried about the box office. I'm worried about the budget because again, if it's live action, there gotta be a little bit of budget. Like these are giant mutant turtles. You gotta.
I mean, it probably you wouldn't need most of them
That's
for all
true.
of it. You'd probably
That's
just like
true.
you get one design, you nail that one design, and the other three you can kind of be a little bit more cheap with because
Mm,
they're probably not going to
true.
be in it much.
Right. And like who's like most of the villains of the story, I think is more like human type character.
Yeah,
Like it's not like you're going to get like a giant. I don't think it's like a giant shredder. I don't think it's like Bebop and Rocksteady. I think they're
sure, yeah,
like the like Foot Clan, and so maybe you're right. Like maybe you don't need like a massive huge budget for this one. Just kind of who knows, cheap
yeah.
turtles maybe that'd be kind of cool. I don't know, but I'm excited for this one. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Um, let's go to our next one. Speaking of Daredevil,
Yeah,
Ali
they are
Zora. I probably butchered that
they are
name.
throwing all of their mistakes out the window, which I love.
She will reprise her role as Vanessa for Daredevil Born Again. Boy, this show has been what a journey. What a journey this has been. So, about a year ago at this point, they had announced, hey, that character you love, we're going to be recasting her as someone else. And I feel like
Yeah,
the internet really went wild at that one. And at the time, I defended this choice. I really did. I was like, yes, it would have been great if the OG actors came back.
yeah.
But like my stance was that like there's a lot of people being like, she's not coming back. That means the OG show wasn't canon, and that was being like, whoa, whoa,
Well,
whoa.
yeah. I
I
mean,
don't.
casting is such a weird like stance to take on that. Like, because for every person you say, look, it's not canon because this person was recast, you can go, well, all right, so Iron Man 1 isn't canon then. Like,
Right. No, fully. Like the MCU has done this a lot now, recasting. I mean, Thanos and Ant-Man, and like
yeah,
it's just something that they've done very well now. And obviously there's been the arguments with like your Blade. We're like, well, he was the villain of Blade, so he can't be your Luke Cage. And I was like, but like I don't know. I feel like there's just lookalikes in the world. Like
yeah,
you're allowed to do that. But like there was a lot of outcry when this happened.
yeah.
What's your thoughts on her being back? Are you happy she's back?
No, I think it's great. I think
Yeah,
I'd like. I mean, obviously, it's hard to tell if the new actress would have been better or worse, without seeing any
sure.
scenes from it. But I think the original actress was so amazing in the role that it's kind of hard to justify recasting when she said herself she was free when they were filming the last
Mm,
stuff. Like, there's no
sure.
reason not to bring her back other than to, I guess at the time, they were really trying to push that this was a new version of Daredevil and like little recasts like that they were hoping, they're not the big guys like Vincent D'Onofrio or Charlie Cox. So they
Yeah.
probably thought they could get away with recasts because the fans wouldn't care as much. And that obviously was not the case. Um, but it's like she was so amazing in season 3. Like the scene where Matt's beating down on Fisk at the very end, he's like, "You will go back to prison and you will never see Vanessa again." It's like the way she is in that scene is just phenomenal. I think it's you lose a lot of the Fisk Vanessa dynamic if you like the dynamic that was so good in the original show. You lose a lot of that by recasting. I think the character because there's going to need to be like a rebuild up of chemistry and all that. You're going to have to kind of get used to the new person. Like, don't, you know, I'm like, cast the new actress in a different role. Give her a role that
Yeah.
has not already been in the MCU. Cast her there so that she still gets a job out of it. But
Yeah.
there's no reason to put her in a role where there is already somebody cast in that role who is free for it. Is kind of my thoughts on it. Yeah, I think this is just another like hint that they are fully considering the stuff canon now, and they're fully considering the old show as like the show and what they're building from. We know that they're keeping bits and pieces from the original show, so we'll see what happens there. But like even then, it seems like the original leaks talked about Karen and Foggy dying pretty early. Like that's very obviously not the case anymore because
Yeah.
the John Bernthal Charlie Cox scenes, Deborah Ann Wolf, who plays Karen, was on set for them. So that's like 10 episodes in, and she's clearly still part of the show. So like that shows that she doesn't die anymore in the new version, which is great. We don't know about Foggy for sure. We haven't seen him on set in months, but I'd assume if they're not killing Karen, they're not going to kill Foggy either. So
They've
Oh no,
said they're still
it's good.
only in 3, right? That's what they've
Sorry,
said. They're both only in 3, right? That's what
I
they've said.
don't know if that was ever confirmed. I think that that
Okay,
was
this is
back
rumored.
with the old version that they were like
Okay,
that they did the version where they were killed off screen, and then did the version with them back where they were in 3 episodes, and then there's the current version. And I don't know what the current version is. So
that's fair.
see.
It's so hard in this world to like keep
Yeah,
track of like, wait, what was rumored? What version of this was this? Like,
yeah,
and especially in the MCU, like there's like Fantastic Four where like, oh yeah, they're doing this for the MCU. I was like, oh no, wait, that was 5 years ago. That's no
yeah.
longer
It's a
a
different
thing we got
version.
to deal with. Yeah, no, fully. Um, no, it's crazy because again, like when that happened, I was like, maybe there's a valid reason. Like maybe she couldn't come back. Maybe whatever reason, and that's why they're recasting. But it is, you're fully right. It feels now that like they did that because they were trying to make a separation between the
Yeah,
two shows, and like it's such a weird. I don't know. Like I was always pretty okay with like a really soft reboot, like something where it's like everything's the same, but if there's like a continuity, something that doesn't add up, it
yeah.
doesn't matter as much. Like if there's a person that doesn't come back, hey, it's the multiverse, and you can have like a soft reboot,
I
a
mean,
soft new
that's
continuity.
that's probably what they're doing with Peacemaker. Like,
Yeah,
essentially, season 2 is a soft reboot where most things are going to be the same, but the little things that don't add up, you're like, well, different universe.
yeah. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry, you'll get over it.
But no, I'm super happy she's back. It fully does just feel like a season 4 now. Like it
Yeah,
feels like there's no, which again it's scary like how close we were to not getting this season, like how
yeah,
close to just failure I think we were. And man, I feel it's so kind of frustrating because I was defending the OG shows so much because I had said throughout the whole thing I was like, no, they know they need to get the show right and they're going to do everything in their power to do that. And I was wrong. I was very clearly wrong. And I'm saying the same thing now that I was saying like 3 years ago, where it's like, well, now they have to do everything to get
yeah.
it right. So hopefully I'm not wrong again.
I
Hopefully it
mean,
is.
you it's just you were talking sense because it was also like, why would they not want to make the best show they can make that's
Yeah.
supporting fans? And that, like,
Yeah.
if they had just done this from the beginning, we'd probably already be seeing Daredevil because they had
Yeah.
already they were filming the original show like a year and a half to 2 years ago at this point. So we could already have it. Like they could already have a full
Yeah.
live action show in a year that's pretty scarce for Marvel.
Yeah, I think
So
we would have had it by I think it would have been this summer probably.
yeah,
That's probably what it would have been, like summer 24, which we were still wondering, hey, is it still gonna come out in 2024? And I think it did officially come out this week. It's gonna be 2025.
yeah.
Are you okay with that? That's coming out next year, or do
Um,
you wish it happened this
yeah.
year?
I'm wondering how they're breaking up this stuff because they said they finished filming season 1, but then somebody who worked on the show were like they finished filming part 1. So there's still another part of season 1 they need to
Yeah.
film. So which makes me think they're going to break up the season.
Mm,
Like they're probably going to have like 6 episodes and then like a month or two off and then 6 episodes or
yeah.
something like that, which I'm not crazy about that, but that's, I guess, streaming TV.
Yeah. I'd love if it was like maybe 7 and a 6. I don't know.
Yeah.
6. But I mean, even though I mean that's not bad, I guess. Like 6 episodes, that's
Sure,
what your
yeah.
normal first season would be. So if you do 6 and 6 with 12 episodes, that's normal, I guess. That's not that
Which
far off
it's
from
normal
like
for Disney Plus. It's not really normal for like
yeah.
normal TV shows. Like even with Netflix, we would have had 13 episodes.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I can make it work because that's not even that far off from like CW stuff, right? Like they would go off air at like 9, so that's just a couple less than that. I'm okay with 8,
yeah.
9. So I wouldn't be I wouldn't be against that.
My thing would just be like, how long of a break are they taking? Like
Yeah,
if it's more than, I don't know, a month and a
sure.
half, it's gonna be a bit of a just like if they're like part 1 releases summer, part 2 releases winter. Like
Mm,
that's gonna be a tough sort of break.
that's what I imagine it would be. As long
Really?
as it's not different years, I would have an issue. Like I
Yeah.
think it has to be the same year. I think
Yeah.
it has to be like I guess I wouldn't hate it if it's this like a couple months away.
I
I
think
don't
for
know.
6 episodes, it's
I
gotta
don't
be pretty
know.
close. I mean, it's the same thing I had with Invincible. I think
Yeah,
you're
you're
killing
right.
your own hype by, like, having breaks when there's not enough of that. Like, I think 8 episodes is the minimum to justify a big break. I think
Yeah,
if you have between 4 and 6 episodes and you're doing, like, 2 or 3 months off, I think that's a bit much.
sure. it's hard because we're in this like new era of
Yeah.
streaming shows. So I guess like my thought is like, well, that's no different than like ending your show at 6 episodes and then getting more episodes in like 4 months.
Yeah, it's
That's
pretty much
like,
doing
oh,
a season 1 and a season 2.
yeah, that's what it'd feel like. Which I'd be okay with that. I don't know, like it's better than what we have been doing, but I know it's tough. It's tough
Yeah.
because the only reason, like the one of the big reasons I was kind of excited for it to come out in 2024 though is like I love the idea that like 2024 is like the year of Daredevil because he was an Echo. He's going to be in the upcoming Spider-Man show. But, like, how cool would it be if he has his own show
Yeah.
as well? It's like this is his year. He gets to like dominate this year.
But then with 2025, we got the return of Daredevil, return of Fantastic Four, and return of Superman. That's a
Yeah,
pretty
and
good
Captain
year.
America,
Pretty good year. And
like
Captain America, yeah. Well, if that film gets
if it
finished,
comes out, and
we'll
Thunderbolts,
see.
bro, aren't you
Yeah.
excited?
Well, I was saying this in the video I made yesterday. I'm like, Thunderbolts, The Authority, and The Boys, like they're all very similar projects. Like in terms of their hero lineup. And I'm like,
Yeah,
The Boys nailed it. But like I think the reason why I'm not too interested in The Authority or in Thunderbolts is because I feel like The Boys is already sort of doing that kind of dynamic pretty well.
yeah.
We'll see.
Authorities does feel like The Boys to me. It
Yeah.
definitely does feel like but like I can't even speak on it because I don't know those characters. I truly don't know that team.
Sure, yeah.
Like I can't say the vibe and the feeling that's going to have because I don't know them. But I'm excited to. Thunderbolts. I don't know. I feel like that's more in line with like Suicide Squad.
But I think
like,
Suicide Squad is like very similar to those sort of to a boys thing as well in a lot of ways.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. That Thunderbolts is kind of in the same spot that Fantastic Four was at, where it's like I was excited, but I need more. And like we got that casting so long, what 2.5 years ago at this point, like.
And we lost characters since then.
Did we?
Yeah, didn't we lose Ghost?
That was a rumor. She's back now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she is. But like, yeah, you need. That's one of them where it's like it's been so long. You need to get that thing moving. I don't know. It's weird. It's crazy.
We'll probably see some at D23. I'd imagine. Some for it and some for Captain America 4.
Yeah. Speaking of seeing something, this is something we're probably not going to see. Game of Thrones spinoff, Jon Snow. It's no longer in development. Game of Thrones. That's that franchise that I love.
That's that one.
It's everyone's favorite show. You were a pretty big like Game of Thrones fan, right?
Yeah, I was really into it when it was airing. No, this is Game of Thrones, Star Wars. Let me think. And DC, right? Those are the three franchises that I don't allow myself to get hyped anymore when projects get announced because they announce so much and almost all of it gets cancelled at some point before it actually comes out. So, I mean, I'm not surprised, but like, yeah. I mean, I think the other projects they have announced are more interesting. I think I would prefer House of the Dragon Season 2, and they're doing Dunk and Egg. And I think, I mean, they cancelled The Long Night, but I think The Long Night would have been more interesting than a Jon Snow show as well. And then we're getting Aegon's Conquest, but I think they're saying that might be part of House of the Dragon Season 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the current shows they have, out of all of them they've announced, I think the Jon Snow show was like the most uninteresting or the most unoriginal to go with. I feel like this was just sort of to capitalize on bringing back as much of the Game of Thrones cast as they could, which they can't do for any of the other shows. But I think, like, I don't know, I think I just going with a new story. I mean, this would be new, but I think going with a story in a new period or a new era would be better than revisiting this character. Personally, though, that's just what I think.
I was kind of looking forward to this one. I think purely on like the concept of like, could you redeem one of the most hated seasons of TV that's ever existed? Right?
Yeah, sure.
That idea of like, how cool would it be if you could like retroactively somehow make that season better? And I know in a lot of ways you can't. They've done things where they can't do that, but there was kind of this like, but like, what if you could kind of bring back a lot of those graces and maybe make the show a bit more memorable? Because like then you think of Game of Thrones, you're gonna think of this Jon Snow series. The thing that I thought was kind of weird though, where they're like, it's not happening because we didn't know what the story was going. Like we couldn't figure out the story. I was like,
Yeah,
isn't most of that in the pitch though? Like, don't you like prior to getting the actor back, don't you be like, okay, this is what we want to do? And of course, I don't know the film world as you do, so maybe you
sure.
can give some input on this. But like, I feel like prior to even doing that, you're like, this is our story. Then you ask him, and then you pitch the show, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? Like,
So for a lot of pitches, it's not a story, it's like a concept. So they probably pitch this as, we bring Jon Snow back, it's Game of Thrones world, we put him in this part of the world. That's the show.
yeah,
And they'd be like, okay, greenlit, like make it, like make a story for it,
yeah,
make it. It's like they kind of do that where they're always like, I don't know, with pitches for franchises or IPs that nobody knows about yet. So like for like a brand new show that's not an IP, they kind of just go like, it's this show meets this show. That's
sure,
the whole pitch. And then they come up with a story after they get funding for it, whatever. Because like a lot
okay,
of places like
fair.
don't want to come up with a story before they have the money to make it. So they kind of go to a studio or a production company or something, and they're like, this is the basic idea of what I want to make. But it's you're exactly right that it should be, you get a story first and you go and you try and get everything back then, because like
Yeah,
that's why a lot of projects end up in development hell, is because the story never works out. Like
yeah,
The Ones Who Live from The Walking Dead is a good example, where it was announced originally as a trilogy of movies. They couldn't get the scripts the way they wanted them to, and it ended up being a show instead. Like they didn't have the story set in stone before they announced the movies, which
hmm,
they should have done, but they didn't.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely agree with you. I think like creatively, it's probably smart to kind of do new projects to kind of explore different parts of the world. I'm not like massively into like the Game of Thrones world. Like I liked the show enough, not fully enough to kind of know all the lore and stuff like that though.
Sure, yeah.
I do think there's a scary bit of like the Game of Thrones shows where it's like I like the show, but I don't remember all like the names and all the places and
I mean,
all the
it's a hard show
characters.
to remember.
It's it's tough. And again, like someone
Yeah.
who also just binged it. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
there week to week talking about it with people, and I think that's what helped a lot of people get into it so much. But I don't know. Do you think this is a show that could ever like come back? Like, do you think in like 3 to 4 years they could be like, okay, we're trying this again?
Um, I mean, I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think it does depend on how the next sort of line of shows do. I think that they're probably hoping that House of the Dragon season 2 and season 3 does really well, and then the Dunk and Egg show does really well, and then based off like once all them are out, it'll be maybe 10 years since Game of Thrones ended, and they can be like, okay, now's a good time to bring it back. Kind of wait, let the show settle for a bit, kind of like what they did with Dexter, where everybody hated the
Mm,
ending, and then 10 years later they brought the show back for like a new ending, like for a
yeah,
season 9. I think it could be similar to that. Kit
yeah.
Harington in general, though, I'm curious as to what he's up to, because during
Yeah,
this
you,
interview,
bro.
during this interview, he was asked as well about Marvel, about coming back,
Yeah,
like, and he was like, yeah, no, they haven't been in touch, like in terms of like Black Knight. He was like, yeah, I
yeah.
haven't heard anything. And he was originally supposed to be in Blade, and now he's not anymore. So Marvel has nothing to do with him. He's not doing anything with the Game of Thrones. It's like,
How to Train Your Dragon, bro. How
oh,
to Train
okay,
Your
well, there you go. There you go. And that's what
Dragon.
he's doing.
He's into those.
Yeah. There you go.
No,
Hey, look.
no, like, oh man, I don't mean to like take the conversation back to Marvel, but like they introduce a lot of new characters, and a lot of
Yeah.
them are just like you have what
Gone.
the Harry Styles character, you have the Black Knight, you
Yeah.
have Hercules, you have
Yeah.
all of these
Star
new Phase
Fox,
Four
Pip, all them.
character. Yeah, yeah. Eternals, where's Eternals at?
Yeah.
Where's
Are we
Shang-Chi
ever
at?
going to see the Eternals again, do you think? Like that entire cast?
Didn't they say? They said
They
no,
say a lot
right?
of things.
They said recently, probably not, right?
Yeah, that might be it.
They said like no Eternal. Well, it was rumored that like no Eternals, no Ant-Man 4, no
Yeah, I saw
Captain
the No
Marvel
Ant-Man 4
3.
thing, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, selfishly, I'm okay not seeing more of them because I just personally, they weren't. It wasn't a bad movie. I just wasn't my thing. I
There
wasn't
were too
super
many of
into
them.
it.
Like, they introduced too many of them at once, which meant that you couldn't get attached to any of them.
Yeah. I mean, I want it to happen just for people that really like it, and I think
Sure, yeah.
like it is weird because I do think Eternals is one of the most like un MCU movies out there. Like it doesn't,
It is,
it
yeah.
truly doesn't feel like the other ones, and I kind of hate that I don't like it because I feel like I should. It feels like it's what MCU movies should be doing more of. I think they
Yeah.
should be making more chances like that. But like I don't know. Selfishly, I didn't enjoy it that much. So maybe they're like in Avengers or something. But then that's a
Yeah,
lot to put in Avengers. I
I
don't
know
know.
it
Maybe
is.
I can't even think where else they would fit. Like they're kind of a franchise that needs to have their own movies. Like they can't
Yeah.
even like Guardians. Probably not. Like I don't know where you'd put them.
Eternals to me, it's like I'm the same as you, where I didn't love it. It feels to me like a boring Phase One MCU film
Hmm.
because like the Phase One MCU films all felt very different. All had like a very unique directing style, and I think Eternals would be a boring if Eternals could work in Phase One. You could put it in Phase One and not a lot would change, but it would just feel like it fits better in terms of the how the films feel and how they look.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know where they'd show up. You kind of do need a movie because you kind of just need to establish them all. Because I feel like even their own film didn't really establish them.
I couldn't tell
So
you any of their names. I couldn't.
there's Cersei and there's
There's
Icarus and
Sprite. I know
there's
that one.
Sprite. There's Mackay, mm,
The speedster
Marak.
one. Right.
Yeah. Um,
That was a cool scene. The
that
the
was a cool scene.
speedster.
That was a cool scene.
Yeah.
That might be all I remember. Damn, I thought I remembered more than that.
Yeah. I need
I
to
could name
rewatch
the
it.
actors.
I never rewatched that one.
Yeah, same.
Actually, I've been doing really bad about like rewatching the MCU movies. Like I used to do that a lot. I used
Same.
to.
Until Endgame, I did it all the time. But that's
Yeah, I think after cause I used to watch them in like theaters twice. I used to do it once. I used to do it again just to kind of get it all. And
fair, yeah.
after Doctor Strange 2, was that the last one I rewatched? No, Black Panther 2 was the last one I rewatched in theaters, which I loved. I
Yeah.
loved Black Panther 2. We don't talk about that movie enough.
The only past Endgame, I think the only MCU films I've seen more than once are Far From Home, The Marvels, because I saw The Marvels twice in cinema,
Mm.
and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I don't think I've watched any other one twice.
Oh, Guardians 3 I did see twice.
Yeah.
I almost saw that 3 times. I loved it so much.
It was so good.
And Spider-Verse, but that's not really MCU, I suppose.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I've seen Spider-Verse twice as well.
oh, it's so good. I need to put that one on again. It's so rewatchable. But yeah, speaking of things that we, or at least you love, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh, yeah.
The future of the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise is described as Avengers level events.
I never noticed
This
he's got the Sonic logo on his bandana before.
I didn't notice that either.
That's awesome.
This one got a lot of people mad this week. I heard a lot of people. I wasn't going to cover it, but then everyone kept talking about it. I was like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know what? Let's have this conversation. Let's talk about it. Obviously, you're a massive fan of the Sonic the Hedgehog movies. Those are your, or just
Think
Sonic
he's,
character, right?
I think that character is the greatest.
Oh,
Well, he's one of the greatest video game characters of all time.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. I love Sonic. So Sonic 3 comes out. Did they give a date for the new one? I know news had just come out about it, but
It's discussing films that it's still December, but I was following a CinemaCon Paramount Plus film blog thing. Like, I don't know how trustworthy it was because I never used it before, but they were like doing live updates of everything because I knew discussing film wasn't going to cover the Star Trek stuff. So I was like, all right, I'll have to go find my own little like independent blog that's doing it. And on that one, they talked about the teaser briefly. They were like a lot of Jim Carrey in the teaser, Shadow in the teaser, and then said coming summer 2024. But I've not seen summer mentioned anywhere else. So I'm wondering, did they just get a mistake? Did they like mess up there and it is still December?
yeah, I mean, we've talked about that over the past week. It was like, can Sonic still keep that spot? And
Yeah.
I think this one still got it. Like, I think they still got the spot. It seems like they're really working hard to get that out for them.
Sure,
But also,
yeah.
I would not be shocked if they're like, hey, it comes out in February or March or whatever.
I think February would make sense because the first one released then, didn't it? In 2020? Yeah.
And the second one came out March, I think. So they've done that.
I think
Like
the second
early.
one was early April. I think
Oh, was
because I
it?
remember I saw it on Easter break
Okay.
or something of 2022.
So like late winter, early spring has kind of been where they've
Yeah.
been at. Do you think this is a good time slot for it? Because I feel like there's a lot of competition this year for Christmas. I'm a bit nervous.
I think Sonic is in its own demographic that I think it would do well. I think in terms of the films coming out this winter, like we've potentially got Karate Kid, if that happens. We've got, what else do we have? Avatar is
Lion
not this
King.
year, isn't it? Not.
It's Lion King this year.
I don't know if Mufasa and Sonic have kind of similar. I think a traditional Lion King film probably would But I think Mufasa, I think there's going to be a fairly different sort of fan base there, or different sort of people going to see it.
Yeah.
I think Sonic releasing at Christmas, I think would do very well. Like I think it would easily beat every other film releasing around then, because I mean the second film made so much money. It
Yeah.
was so popular. And I think Knuckles coming out is also going to start elevating this IP and this franchise up. So I think we're reaching a point now where Sonic 3, where other films are going to get out of the way of Sonic, sort of thing, rather
Mhm.
than, Sonic has to get out of the way of other films. I think Sonic's like reached that level now where it does not have to worry about other movies.
Yeah. I think Lion King. I kind of think it's still gonna make money. Like,
I think
because
it'll make money. I just think Sonic
I,
will still
it's hard because like the
yeah.
first one was a billion-dollar film, so it's hard. I don't know because like, is the charm gone? Because people saw the first one. It's
Yeah.
very weird because it made a lot of money, but almost everyone was like, "Yeah, this thing kind of sucks, y'all." So I'm
Yeah.
wondering. I do think some of the charm of like the Disney live action reboots are wearing off a little. Like Little Mermaid, it still did okay. It made back its money, but didn't make a lot of money. So I think a little bit of that charm is wearing off. But is Lion King too much of a juggernaut? Like, is it still going to?
I mean, I would think Lion
I don't know.
King, the reason why the first one made a lot of money was because it was a remake of The Lion King. I think
Yeah.
Mufasa is not going to do nearly as well because
Mm,
it's a new story. It's not your traditional Lion King
yeah.
film. Like it's for all intents and purposes, it's kind of its own thing.
Unknown movie.
So
Yeah.
I think that alone might keep it from reaching the heights that the first one
Yeah.
reached. I might be wrong on that though. I don't know Disney box office nearly as well as like you or anything like that. But I
Right.
think just based off of like knowledge of the IP,
Hmm.
and I guess knowing that the first one received pretty big backlash. Like I feel like the first one made a lot of its money in the first month or so before word started
Yeah.
spreading about it pretty heavily. So I wonder if that's like if enough time has passed since the first one that opinion
Yeah.
maybe has soured on it.
I think Lion King is. I think it's actually. I think the Christmas is really going to help it because I do think it
Okay.
will like do well with the Christmas box office. Like, all the families going around for like the holidays. I
Sure,
think that
yeah.
works, and I actually think Sonic would also benefit. I'm just thinking though, like if you're like if you have a family, you're like, okay, we're taking our kids for Christmas. What one do you choose? I don't have the answer. I
Sonic.
don't know which one would win. I'm
Sonic.
genuinely really curious if it's
Everybody chooses
Sonic.
Sonic.
Is it Sonic or is it Lion King? I don't know. Lion
I think
King
it's
is a big name, but so is Sonic.
but like all right, you look at the first look picture from
Yeah.
Sonic 3, you look at the first look picture from Mufasa,
No,
you put a
I
kid
get you. I get
in
you.
front of both of them and you say which one
Yeah,
looks more interesting to you? Which
you're
one
gonna pick
looks like a
Sonic.
more fun film?
Karate Kid.
Oh man, I hope so. If every because they're the Karate Kid, they go to it knowing that they can be the Karate Kid.
Yeah,
They don't go to a film saying I can be Sonic or I can be Mufasa.
yeah.
No, but they can be the Karate Kid.
Karate Kid's the
That's it.
one I'm most nervous of. Like that's the
I'm
one
really
that I
nervous
think
for it.
it can get really. If it sticks that date, which I'm thinking it might be like in January.
Yeah,
Which actually might
it
be
feels like a
cheaper.
January film.
It does. I feel that like a good way to start the year. Kung
Yeah,
Fu. Like I feel that. Like I feel like it's gonna get suffocated by all the
it
other
will.
holiday movies. Like
I don't think Karate Kid. Like I think Cobra Kai is pretty popular. I don't think it's popular enough for
mm,
a new Karate Kid film to do well. Because
mm,
like Karate Kid, like as a film or as a brand, is still very much like a 1980s thing.
yeah,
I don't know how well a new film. Like how good did the Jackie Chan one do? Like did that make money?
I think I made a little bit of money. But here's also the thing. Like, I think it can do well
400 million
a
dollars.
low budget if it has a low budget and if it's surrounded
Yeah,
a time where there's not a lot. Like, if
yeah,
we're putting this in like March or April, I actually think it would do really well.
yeah,
I think it would come back, and you have like a 150 million budget maybe. Like
yeah.
they can back.
I can see
Like
that. I mean, because you don't need a whole lot of VFX. You just need some good stunt people.
no, you're
So I
right.
think like yeah, it could work. I mean, have they started
Um,
filming yet?
yeah, they started a couple
Okay,
weeks ago.
okay.
I don't think it'll
So
take
I was
them
like,
long.
they're coming soon. Like that's
But like Cobra Kai is also still filming, so I just imagine like
yeah
um
crossover.
they're just like running back and forth. He's like,
Yeah,
I gotta go. I
it's like
gotta go.
Miguel going back and forth. Miguel and Johnny running laps around the sets. I can't wait for
That
Cobra Kai
Devil's on
season
the other
6.
on Cobra Kai because he's over on the other side.
Yeah,
But about the future of the Sonic franchise, what's your opinion on kind of this approach? Do you like the idea of the Avengers level events, Or
I mean, like, people are complaining about it, but I mean, that's what Sonic always has been. Like, watch the Sonic, like watch Sonic X, watch Sonic Underground, play any of the games. The final parts of the games and the final parts of the shows are always Sonic, like going up against like some insane shit. Like Sonic 3 ends with him on this giant sky ship fighting Dr. Robotnik, like just way up in the sky, almost in space, just bouncing off the walls
yeah,
and stuff. Like you can do that in the movie, no problem. Sonic X always has Dr. Robotnik with these giant robots looking like they're Megazoids or whatever, like
yeah,
punching it, and they've got like Sonic and Amy and Tails and Knuckles and Shadow all attacking them at once. Like, I think there's enough stuff there where events like these make complete sense. Like, I think
yeah,
Sonic is the one franchise where I think, it perfectly makes sense for every film to be this crazy over the top stuff where you've got all these characters teaming up to fight Robotnik. I just think, the franchise, the future of the franchise for me really does rely on Jim Carrey. Because, not to say Sonic doesn't have other good villains, but I think a lot of his best stuff still goes back to like
mm,
Robotnik. So
yeah,
I think you lose Jim Carrey, you kind of, like, where do you go from there?
yeah,
Because like Shadow doesn't work on his villain on his own. You need Robotnik kind of behind that.
yeah. Do you think that they would make like new villains to have for their
I
movies?
think they might have to, because Carrey was already like, I am leaving, I'm retiring from acting, and then he came back for Sonic 3. It's like, how
Like,
many
I got
times is
to
he
do
gonna
it.
do that? Yeah,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
I'd
that's
say
what I.
Sonic 3 is his last one.
That's kind of what I wanted for 3. I kind of wanted them to do something slightly different for 3, and then maybe either 4 or 5 he comes back as this
Yeah,
massive thing, be like, oh my god, or the final one in this franchise, or maybe this is a final one. Well, I guess not since they're saying the future of it.
yeah.
But like,
They've got a few things on the way. They want to do like a Shadow project as well, from what I
yeah,
heard.
that's what we've heard. Yeah, yeah, it makes sense to me. I think as long as you pace these films out, you're okay. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like if there's like 2 a year or something, we'll be like, all right, too
that's
much
a bit
Sonic. But
much. Yeah,
like, yeah, if there's like one every 2 years or something, I'm okay. I'm okay with that. And just like the trailer came out, hadn't come out to us, but like what
yeah.
we've
It's
heard
been
about
gone.
it, where we have like Sonic and Tails and Knuckles, and they're all going after Shadow, and like that just kind of feels like a superhero flick, and I'm
It
I'm, I'm
does.
here
Yeah,
for it. It sounds fun.
I think, yeah, just they're being consistent with them. The quality has been consistent, and I think they're spacing them out in terms of when they're coming out, which is good as well. They also haven't confirmed if Hayden Christensen is like the voice of Shadow yet, have
Yeah,
they?
they haven't said. They haven't said.
Because that was
Which
his one condition to come back.
I'd love. Hayden, I think would be a great casting. I'd
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And then Jessica Jones as well. What's her face?
Oh yeah, Kristen Ritter.
Yeah, is she
Yeah,
Rogue or is she
yeah.
Rouge
That's
or?
that's that's the Rouge. Yeah, that's the
Okay.
the rumor.
Hell yeah, it's fun. I love it. Yeah, let's move on to our next thing here. Avatar. Man, this made my day. This is my favorite news of the week by far. And Connor cannot wait for this. Connor
I'm
cannot wait to
so
talk about this.
excited. I can't believe it's just about time you asked me.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear your whole thoughts on how
Gonna rant. I'm
how
gonna
you
rant
finished
about
your
how
Avatar watch. I cannot wait.
rant
No,
about how
but
great it was.
Eric Nam and Dave Bautista, did not see that one coming, have been cast in Aang, The Last Airbender. Man, we've been waiting, Connor. We've been waiting a minute for Avatar Studios. It
We've
was
been waiting.
announced.
We've been waiting.
It's been 3 years almost since they had announced. 2 years, 3 years since they announced Avatar Studio. It's happened. We're making movies. We're making shows. The first movie and show drops next year. So we've been like, hey, now the live action show's out. Can you give us some of that stuff? And this is the Avatar stuff I'm really excited for. Like the show the newest show came out. I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. But it was very hard for me because I felt just like, yeah, that's cool that we're like revisiting that show, but like I'm more excited for new stuff, not just a
Yeah.
reboot, like new content in the Avatar world. How far are you on your watch? Have you not watched any since?
Same as no. There's been so many things coming out. Like once I was doing my Star Trek stuff, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just gonna stay up to date on current TV for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I've been very up to date on current TV. So you asked me about any shows that have come out over the last like 2 or 3 months. I've probably seen it. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's fair. No,
Except for the Avatar live action show, I guess.
Oh, I was about to ask, like, what's your thoughts on that one? No, um, I mean, do you have any thoughts on just like as a franchise coming back? Do you have any thoughts on how they're doing it? Like, do you have any as someone on the outside, are just like Them making movies, them making shows, starting an entire studio based on this world. Do you have any thoughts on that, or just no?
I mean, I kind of feel the same as I do about a lot of these franchise sort of things where they set up studios or whatever to make new things inside of a universe. I think you don't start planning this far ahead until you have that first project out. You wait and see how that first project does. You wait and see how it's received. If it's received well, then you go full steam ahead with all your next stuff.
Yeah.
But you make one great project first. You put that out. You see what the reception for it is. Depending on the reception, you push everything else forward. And it feels like, from what I've just been hearing about Avatar Studios, it feels like they've got like 3 or 4 projects like cooking at the moment, which is valid. I mean, it's a popular IP, obviously, but I think, what if the first project comes out and everyone's like, this is not what we wanted from Avatar coming back? Like, what are you doing here? And then you you run into this situation where now you've got a bunch of projects coming out that people don't want to see or don't care about. So I think, you gotta wait.
Sure. I have no real concerns with it as of yet, just as far as because the original creators are coming back to do they're the ones making the stuff.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like a situation with the last 2 live action projects where it's like, hey, you kind of lost the essence of it a little bit. I think how they're starting it out, I think, is really smart, though. They're starting out with just, the Aang film. They're starting with that. That's fun. And then we're doing just a show. Just kind of, it's separate from the original stuff. It's, in the future, past everything. So I think that's a fun way to start. I know, because it's weird, because I'm not exactly sure what's even still being made. Because, from the jump, they announced 3 separate movies that were going to, it was, 24, 25, 26. There are projects, I won't say them because I don't want to spoil you, maybe if you ever catch up. I was like, okay, these are really cool projects. And then they had announced this movie, which is just going to be the Aang movie taking place after the show wraps up, when they're adults and stuff like that. So, all right, that's cool. But then it's oh, wait, is that taking place of the movies that's already been announced? Or is it this plus that? And then the show was announced as well, and we've heard nothing about the previous 3. So it's so what's actually being made right now? We have no idea. I'm just happy to get any news from all of this, though. I truly am. I don't know. I love the Avatar world. Have you gone into the point of the series where they kind of go into how the Avatar works as far as one dies and then we get a new one type of thing? Have you?
They touched on it a little bit. I think it was either early season 2 or end of season 1. They started kind of touching on that a little bit, but I didn't see too much of it yet.
Okay, cool. I just kind of really wanted to touch on the name of the project, which we didn't have prior, which is it's Aang, which was not in the original show, right? It's just called Avatar originally. But I really like that they're putting the names of the avatars into projects. I do think they'll make it really easier just going forward for each avatar to just kind of have their own name. So the sequel series is called just Korra. It's called Korra. And that's cool. And then we have some prequel projects that also just have their names in it. So I think it's really smart to kind of have Aang in the title. And then each project going forward, it can just be Kyoshi or Roku or whatever their names are. I think it's really easy to market that. Be wait, which avatar are you talking about? And be oh yeah, Aang. Oh yeah, Korra. So I'm excited for it. I'm and also Dave was a very unexpected. I know this franchise is a big deal now, and even the OG show got some big names. They even attempted to get Dwayne The Rock Johnson back in the day.
Jeez.
But I don't know. There's something about that hearing Dave Bautista and Avatar: The Last Airbender in the same sentence. It's okay, all right. Apparently he's playing the villain as well, so I think he can play a great villain. I think
Dave's great at that.
I think he'll kill that role. I think he'll be great. All right, let's move on to something that you can actually add on to.
Oh yeah.
I apologize for my little rant.
No. Look, man, Avatar is a cool thing. It's a cool franchise.
It is. I think you'd love it. I think.
Hey, look, maybe someday I will.
I think you'll like 3. I think you'll like season 2. I think you'll love season 3. I think season 3 would be really up your alley.
Cool.
Let's talk about another thing that's maybe up a lot of people's alleys. Maybe it's not. The Joker Filet-A-Doo trailer has dropped this week. One of the big things at a CinemaCon this week. This one might be one we have a differing opinion on. I'm actually going to be very curious to see where we kind of land on this one. What was your thoughts on this trailer, Connor?
My thoughts were that it's visually a very, very, very
Mhm.
good looking trailer. There's a lot of shot choices and a lot of things in it that look great. I don't like how much of the trailer, and maybe this is just the trailer, I don't like how much of the trailer seemed to be scenes from the first film, but this time with Harley Quinn, or I guess Lady Gaga, present.
Mhm.
To me, I'm worried that a lot of the film might be like, I don't know, inside Arthur Fleck's mind, where he's sort of
Mhm.
reimagining the events of the first film, but alongside Harley Quinn.
Mm.
I don't really fancy the idea of a sequel that is heavily built around just redoing events from the first film, but with a new character kind of alongside.
Sure.
Um, Now I'm sure there's going to be like huge sequences, like musical sequences that are part of that. That's going to break it up and make it feel very different. But I don't know the trailer. Outside of like the stunning shots and the cinematography and the music, it didn't overly grab me.
Mhm.
I think it's like the first film. It just the first film. It looks very different what this film is, and I think that's not a bad thing. Um, they're just I don't know. I think it's something I for me the trailer doesn't convey what the film is. And I think I need to wait and
Mhm.
see what the film is because I think whatever the
Trailer
film is going
too.
to be, it's going to be a hard thing to get across in the trailer.
Yeah.
So like I want to wait and see for sure.
Yeah. I think I think marketing so far has been kind of smart because I think
Yeah,
I'm not a there was a big thing over these last several months about like with your Mean Girls and a lot of these stuff where like they're not marketing the musical aspect because they're hoping
yeah,
non-musical fans will show up. And I honestly really hate that. Like I think that's just kind of putting down that genre of movie a lot.
sure, yeah,
I do think with this one though, it might be kind of smart to do that, just to not show your full deck of what the musical aspect might be before you go in, because I do think you're going to want to market to this movie one fans. I think you're going to want to market to the Batman fans. You're going to want to market to the superhero genre fans, the like cinema fans too. And
yeah.
I can understand maybe they're waiting to show their full deck yet. Um, I personally really loved the trailer. It was kind of like, I'll be honest, it was exactly what I imagined the film to be or what the trailer to be. Like there was nothing here. I
Sure.
was like, oh my god! Like it was kind of like what I thought in my head is what it kind of
Yeah.
was. I really love the approach that it seems like they're going. Like I love the idea of this Arkham movie with Harley and Joker and them falling in love and seeing their journey and so much of it being stuck in their heads. I really vibe with. I don't think we've quite, and I've said this for a while. I don't think there's ever been a film like this ever. Like I've never seen a film that at least in like the like comic book space to be like, okay,
In the comic
here's
book space, definitely not. But I think both Joker 1 and Joker 2 take a lot of inspiration from other
mm,
films. Like Joker 1,
oh
like
sure.
King of
Yeah.
Comedy and Taxi Driver, it's you put them two films together and you have Joker 1. I think Joker 2, like a lot of people have been making the comparison to La La Land. I think
Yes.
visually it feels very La La Land. But I think in the comic book space for sure, there's
No,
nothing
yeah,
like it.
like I guess I'm just saying like in the aspect of like a superhero genre film that takes pieces of like musical aspects and
Sure, yeah.
like a character stuck in their own head. And like one of my favorite aspects of the first one was like you don't quite know what's real and not real. And that's
Yeah,
kind of one
like
of my
what's in his head and
most
what's not.
like that's one of my most anticipated parts of the movie because I think you can get so creative with
Yeah.
how you're going to be writing the film, the like situations you're going to be putting in Arthur, and now you not only have what's in Arthur's head, but now you also have what's in Harley's head.
Yeah.
Who's in what's head? Who's where are you at right now? Um, the
Question.
one,
Did you
yeah,
watch
go ahead.
Legion?
No, I didn't.
All right, Legion is right up your alley then. If you
Yeah,
liked if what you just described is Legion.
Mhm.
It's yeah,
That's
it's pretty
that
much
one
Legion.
superhero show that I want to watch, but I probably never will for just
It's very different.
whatever reason. It's just it's always going to be on that back burner of
Yeah.
like someday I'll get to you, someday, but I probably never will. But that's like the only X-Men show I think I haven't seen. I think Legion
Oh
was
yeah.
the only one. So I loved Gifted. I loved all
Yeah.
the other ones, the four now. Um so yeah, I'm excited. I don't know. But like the one thing that I found very interesting about this one, or kind of because I was fully expecting for this one that we're going to go with like the like Dr. Harley route with the character. I thought
Yeah, it's
like,
like
oh, she's
psychiatrist.
yeah, like she's like a therapist or whatever, and she's going in. And it seems like at least from the start of the trailer, she's already in Arkham. Like she's already kind of gone crazy. She's already in with
Yeah.
them. Do you think we're still going that route with her, or do you think we're just kind of
Yeah, no,
skipping over that?
I think we're starting where she's a patient, just like Joker is, or just like Arthur is. I
Mhm.
think that's kind of the route they're going.
It's interesting. It's interesting. No, I've heard a lot of people being like, I'm not sure how I feel about the shot. I love the final shot with the lipstick on the glass and him like
Yeah.
grinning up at like. I loved it. It's
No,
very
I liked it
artsy.
too. Yeah, it is. And I think that's something that like as well. I'm gonna need more for the film than for it just to be artsy. Like
Mm,
it can look amazing. It can have some of the most interesting, unique shots of all time, but I'm gonna need there to be something of more substance underneath that.
mm,
And
sure.
I'm hoping that the film lands that for me.
With the idea of like, I've seen a lot of people throw around like Oscar bait at it, which is valid. That's a
Yeah.
valid thing to be like, oh, they're just trying to win like awards and stuff like that. I'm not trying to make a movie, and I'm like, that's valid, I guess. But I kind of think that's what DC needs right now, though. I think
Like an Oscar film?
yeah, that, and also like something to show and be like, hey, this is what DC was able to make. This is
Sure, yeah.
like when you look at it, like you can be like, hey, they've done this well, this well, this well, and this one. I think they need bets to be like, yes, people will love this, and I think they're on the right path. I think this point going forward, we're going to have really good DC films. We have the Batman Part 2, we have the Penguin, we have Joker, 2, we have hopefully Superman Legacy. Like I think we're going to be going on a path of just like really good DC content that
Yeah.
we can show people. Be like, this is what they've been able to put out. There's not Aquaman 2 anymore. It's not Flash. It's not Wonder Woman 2. You know what I mean? Like
Hey,
good
the
stuff.
Aquaman 2, Aquaman Lost Kingdom was the greatest film of our generation.
Yeah.
Let's not be taking Aquaman down, all right? Aquaman's better than any Joker film ever made.
Oh, that's a hot take.
I mean, I disagree completely. I disagree with my own take. But no, I
No.
agree with Jim. It's like the next lineup of films we have from DC is Joker 2, Superman, and then likely after that, I don't know, the first film after that is probably Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Those are three vast. No, sorry, it's probably Batman Part 2 and then Supergirl,
that's
Woman of
super.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Those four films are so vastly different,
yeah,
and like it's gonna really be a good showcase for what DC is as a brand, and as a studio, and as a company, and
yeah.
everything. I think it's exciting.
Which is crazy to say they're all vastly different when they're both like Batman and Superman projects.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That is true.
But it's probably needed, like getting people in those seats. Like use your
Yeah.
two big IPs to get people in there and
Yeah.
get hopefully money. They need money. They
They
desperately
do need
need
money.
money.
Yeah, they need to dig themselves out of that hole so they can actually afford to market these films. Because if they don't market them, we're going to get another Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom situation.
$1 billion
Losing like
Joker
zero
2 would
money.
be such a big win for them, but that wouldn't
Yeah.
happen. I don't think.
No, I think the first one is the most they're going to get out of this franchise.
Yeah. Do you think we get a 3, or do you think we're done at 2?
No, I think James Gunn's gonna think going forward he wants to have a hand in any Elseworlds films probably. So I don't think I think he, in terms of Elseworlds stuff, he probably wants to start fresh. So like he can help be there from the ground up for a lot of these Elseworld films. Whereas like he probably wouldn't have been there at the beginning of Joker 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
the Batman, maybe. I mean, like that was already a thing, right?
The Batman, no, it would have been a thing for a little bit before he came in.
But that one's also, I think, a really smart bet though for them as far as like money guaranteed. Like I feel like those movies are like money writing themselves for relatively cheap. Like I don't think those movies need massive budgets. Like you do like 100, right? So like I don't know. It's going to be interesting. We forgot to do this. What's that? Good.
Do you think we're getting a Batman Part 3?
Oh, I do. I guarantee.
Really?
I think we're doing more. I think probably do Part 4, Part 5.
Yeah?
I think we're gonna get tons of spinoffs. Yeah, I don't think they're slowing down with that because I think it's just free money. I think it's a good way to just show like, hey, Elseworld is also a thing that we want to show that we want to do.
Sure.
And I think it brings back faith. Like, I cannot imagine the backlash if it comes out that like, oh, yeah, we made them rush to get done with that saga because like they're even calling it saga now. So it's not like I think we'll get again Penguin.
I have a conspiracy theory.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, get ready. I think we may not go further than the Batman Part 2 and the Penguin, because the next project in the Matt Reeves verse after the Penguin would have been the Arkham series, and that's now the DCU. The Penguin and the Batman Part 2 would have been in development and pre-production long before Gunn kind of started changing things around. So I think that they were getting made no matter what. But I think they changed Arkham because they were like, we're not going forward maybe with a lot of these non-DCU projects anymore. And I'm curious if that expands to maybe the Batman Part 3, even though
Right.
it's a no-brainer move money-wise. This it's my insane theory over.
Yeah.
Take my tinfoil hat off.
Yeah, I mean, I currently don't agree. I'd be
I mean,
shocked.
most people don't. Most people don't agree.
Yeah.
So.
I get what you're saying though, but like, I think it might just be a thing where like maybe Matt Reeves didn't exactly know what he wanted to do with the Arkham show, so it's like, I like
I
this
mean, he's
idea.
still
Maybe
involved in it. He's still
maybe,
involved in the DC universe.
maybe. I'm personally very excited that it's moved over because I think they can have a lot more fun with that show
Sure,
in the DCU. Like, as cool as it could have been in like the Matt Reeves verse, I don't think they could have gone as like outlandish with it as I think it can be. Like, I think that show can be so fun just to getting to see. I also think it's brilliant to show the lore of Batman without revisiting all the lore. You can just be like, this is how Batman took out Harley. This is how he took out Clayface and Joker and King Shark, and you can do all this lore without having to have movies for every single one of them. Like, that's great. And I actually think world building in the DCU, I think is going to be very smart. Like, I think Green Lanterns will be good for like world building. I think the Waller will be really good for world building. I think there's a lot of these shows that are just going to build out that world and the history of the world very nicely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We forgot to do it prior, but would you like to talk about anything you watched this week? I completely forgot to get into that before we did the news.
just Fallout. Kind of Fallout's been great.
Oh yeah, I've got today.
I've got one episode left.
Oh my god!
And it's hands down the best video game to screen adaptation, I think, of all time. I think it's just
better than Last of Us.
Oh, far better than Last. It's like they took the aesthetic that seemed unadaptable and made it into something that's just perfect, that lives in the world of Fallout while being its own story, while still connecting to the games and still connecting to so much other stuff that happened. I don't know. I think like there's no better way they could have done the show, honestly. I think because the three main characters they've got Walton Goggins as the Ghoul, they've got Maximus from the Brother of Steel, and they've got Lucy from Fallout 33. And each of those three characters feel like when you start a Fallout game, you get to decide who you're going to be. You get to decide who your character is. You get to decide what path you're going to go down. Those three main characters feel like the three different paths you could take in a game, where it's like you're going to be the person who just came out of the Vault Dweller who wants to be good, do good in the world, be naive about the world, what it is. You've got the Brother of Steel character who's a little bit more of a hard ass. You know, a lot of players love to be the Brother of Steel. Then you got the Ghoul who's like this lone wanderer style character who a lot of players go for. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how I feel about that show, just as someone who.
Yeah, I'm interested in that too.
I really want to play those games at some point, or at least the late 4. Sounds like a lot of fun.
One.
I really want to get into that at some point, but like, how am I going to feel as someone who doesn't know that world at all, just kind of jumping into it?
I'm curious because I think the story works really well, but they make references to a lot of things, and there's a lot of things they do where like I've been thinking to myself, like you'll see a character do something and I'm like, I understand why they're doing that because of the game, but somebody who hasn't played the game, are they going to kind of understand why this character is doing that sort of thing? Like they'll do like a sound effect, or you'll have a character take a certain kind of drug, and you'll be like, are non-gamers going to understand why the character's taking that drug or why they're doing that thing, sort of thing? Because the show sometimes doesn't explain it or doesn't like touch on it, but it's also this thing where like it can just appear to be this world building thing, where it's like they're like, oh, that's a cool little gimmick of whatever this universe is. But yeah, I'm interested to see what you think.
Yeah, same. Just as far as because it's a gimmick to make it. It's such like a gamble to make it canon to the games. Like that's such a swing that I really respect it. Again, I think sorry.
No, you go ahead.
No, I just there is a FOMO inside me that they're like, all right, now I got to find time to play game 1, 2, 3, 4. But that's just how my brain works. I can't not know all the lore. I got so. Sure. I'm curious to see how they do it, and if it works as well for someone that doesn't know the lore and the games and stuff like that. So,
the Fallout 4 came out in 2016, and that's almost 10 years. Yeah, because Bethesda takes their time with games. Yeah. We're probably not seeing Fallout 5 until 2032, 2033. So we could have an entire 6-7 season Fallout show by the time the next Fallout game comes out. Which is so I
Does
think
it
that's why
feel
they're
like?
avoiding canon.
Do you think it's going to get like a season 2 and 3 and stuff like that? Like, do you think they're
So
going to keep going?
they haven't officially renewed it for season 2, but they've
Right.
already gotten permission to film season 2 in California.
Oh
Which
wow.
they
Okay.
wouldn't have gone and gotten permission unless they were planning on doing a season 2.
Yeah.
So I think
They just
it's
gotta
going
see
to
how it
get
does.
renewed. Yeah, I think it's going to get renewed pretty quickly, and then I think they'll go like 4 or 5 seasons with this.
I haven't seen a lot of people talking about it though, which kind of stuff. Like
It's all over my Twitter.
Oh really?
I
Okay.
can't scroll like 2 tweets, but like I think
Maybe
it's
it's
because
just
I follow a lot
because
of
I'm not
gaming
in that
places.
world. Yeah,
Sure,
that
yeah,
probably.
yeah.
I like I've seen a couple people talk about it. I just haven't seen like the grand masses like as they
Sure.
would for like The Last of Us or even X-Men currently. But again, that's also my timeline. Like my timeline
Yeah.
years is probably very
My
different.
timeline's very like Xbox sort of
That's fair. That's
focused.
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. It's weird how that works. Like it might,
Yeah.
you know, I don't see it happening, but it's happening in other parts of the internet. So that's valid. I mean, my favorite. I mean, I think the early last week and the end of this week, some of my favorite like superhero TV has come out. Like the
Oh, yeah.
Invincible, the Invincible final episode was last Thursday. We didn't talk about
Yeah.
it then, but like loved the finale. I thought the finale was brilliant. I thought it was a great way to end the season. Couple like nitpicks, couple places we could have made a little neater, but I thought it was great. Walking Dead cameo, Spider-Man cameo, Batman cameo. Spoilers, I suppose. And then X-Men came out Monday. Connor, you got to get caught up. You got to do it.
So much stuff. There's so much stuff.
When I tell you, and like there's part of my brain where it's like it's recently biased and stuff like that. I think it's one of my favorite episodes of comic book TV I've ever seen. It is. Oh, yeah. Episode 5 is like masterful. I couldn't believe it that like they pulled off such a good episode. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it because I really want people to go watch it. But insane. Like I think it's probably my top 10 of my favorite comic book pieces of TV. It's crazy.
I will get to it eventually. I think like probably when the season ends, I'll just binge the old one and the new one. Together.
Have you seen anything that happens inside this latest episode yet? Have you seen any spoilers?
I don't think I've really seen spoilers for any of the episodes.
Okay, good.
I saw Captain America shield, and people are like, he's showing up in a future episode. That was just announced. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much all I've seen. Cast. What's the guy's name? You know the guy from that time travel show? What's his name?
The time travel show?
The time traveler's wife.
The main guy in that.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's Captain America, which is
cool.
It's fun casting. Yeah. But no, it works really well if you know nothing. Like I knew something was happening. Like I heard people talking like riddles, and I was like, I'm gonna get off Twitter before it gets spoiled. And then it was just like, this is insane. I can't believe they did this. But no, we're halfway through that show currently, and I'm loving what they're doing. I think it's gonna be really hard for them to, and like unless they stumble the ball on these last 5. But like they've said like, hey, this was just kind of like the start of the final bit of the show. Like we're gonna each episode just gets better. I was like, how do you do that? How can you do that? I don't know how. I could see this being my favorite show of 2024 unless there's some like really banger stuff in the back half, which it could be. We got some fun stuff coming out. The Boys are coming out. Shows are coming out. But The Walking Dead as well. I watched. I started season 8 as always. That's going to be my rhythm for the next like 5 weeks, if not more. But like, I started season 8 this week. We were talking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Easily my least favorite. By like
it's a tough season.
By like miles. By like it feels like I said last week that like season 7 kind of felt like it fell off a cliff a little bit. This one feels like you threw it across the earth. Like it's just a completely
the quality just drops so insane. Like I'm so happy season 9 came out, because if season 8 was the quality of The Walking Dead going forward, I'd be like, the show has a drop off comparable to like Flash or something like that. You know, like it's insane. Now I will say season 8 picks up a little bit in the back half. I think the back half of the season is a lot stronger than the first half. So you got some stuff. You got some stuff coming your way.
Yeah. I can fully understand why people dropped off by this point.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting here and being like, I don't want to. I guess I can spoil it. It's been enough time that I don't.
Yeah, it's been like 8 years since that season aired.
Yeah, like Carl dying. I knew it was happening. Like I knew Carl was dying from the start when I started the show, so I knew it was going to be a thing. I thought I had a lot more time with him though. I was thinking like, because I thought the Rick stuff happened first. I thought Rick died or disappeared or whatever, and then Carl died. I was like,
Rick's in
okay,
the whole show. He didn't leave. He's there till
yeah,
the finale of the whole show.
that is true. He is in the
Yeah.
finale.
There you go.
I don't know. I felt and what you were saying, like you were saying he was kind of forced off, right?
Yeah, so the running story in the fandom was
Pisses me off
that
so much.
Scott Gimple kind of like didn't want to pay him adult rights or something like that. So as soon as he kind of turned the age where he's got to get paid more, they were like, "All right, Chandler, see ya." He was like, "What?" Because in the comics, he becomes the main character. The very next arc of the show is also the very next arc of the comics, and it's Carl's biggest and most important arc in the comics, where he's like he's the guy, he's the main guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, then they wrote him out right before that.
And
Like he
that's
would
what
have
that
been so
episode
much more prominent in the show as well.
That's what that episode feels like they're setting up. Like when he's
Yeah.
like facing down like Negan, it says like, oh my gosh, we're eventually. Like, I was like, in my head, I was like, oh yeah, they're going to kill off
Yeah.
Rick, and he's going to have to step up, and he's going to be like leading the group. And I would have been fine watching like another 5-6 seasons with just Carl and seeing him grow up into the man that he is. Like that would have been really cool to see. No, the fact that it sounds like they forced him off, that kind of pissed, because it just kind of feels like it just happens. Like it didn't feel like there was any build up to him kind of leaving. It's just like, oh, he's gone now. Okay. And I did not like episode 9 really at all, because that episode kind of felt like it took longer for him to turn than most, right? Like it kind of felt like we were just waiting
it's over
around.
the course of like one night.
Okay,
they've kind of went over it before, where there's like the shortest. Fear the Walking Dead did this really cool thing in one of their episodes where they're in this camp that's run by the military, and the military just executing people to see how long it takes them to turn, and they're like keeping track. Like early Fear the Walking Dead does it. They flesh out the world so well. It's so annoying what happened to it later on, but there's this bit where they're like killing people to see how long it takes them to turn.
Wow.
And they're like, some people turn as quickly as 20 minutes, other people take like 16 hours.
Oh, okay.
So it's what I think that whole episode takes place over the span of like one night. So I think, it's kind of like 8-9 hours it takes them thereabouts, probably.
That's fair then. I don't know. I just felt like we're just waiting for it to happen. Yeah. It's just kind of felt like we were standing in place for like 50 minutes. I wasn't a huge fan of how we kind of like they were nice scenes as we were kind of like letting him go. And a character like that, you need to have like a big ending for him to say like goodbye. But I don't know. I wasn't a fan of just how it happened and
no, you're valid for it.
Like, I kind of think it's the most disappointing death yet to me. Like, I'm trying to think back if there's any that I felt like.
I think Beth's was really stupid. Beth's death on the show for me is the stupidest death on the show. Where like she goes up and she stabs Dawn the cop with the scissors, and then the cop accidentally shoots her in the head. Yeah. Like that's. Come on, you can think of more creative ways to write her off the show than that.
Yeah, that kind of sucked. I guess I didn't care. Like, I liked Beth, but I wasn't like, I love Beth, so I guess it didn't anger me too much. Glenn shocked me the most. Like, Glenn was like the most, oh my gosh, in the show. So I knew it was happening, but I didn't see it coming. But Carl, I think it pissed me off the most. Just like all right, I guess we're doing that. And so many characters have lived. I thought so many characters would have went way before Carl. Like I was like, Eugene doesn't make it past season 5. Can't believe he's still here.
I think Eugene's smart, but he can't like defend himself. Eugene's just good at like getting other
lucky.
People.
Yeah,
he's lucky, but he's also just good at getting other people to help him. He's also just like his smarts kind of help him because like Negan didn't kill him because he knew how to make bullets. It's like the little things he knows that most people don't know save his life.
Yeah,
which is kind of valid.
I don't know if you're talking about the show we're currently talking about. I'm on season 8. You've seen all of it.
Yeah, I've seen all of it.
You've seen, unless you're talking about something else entirely, then we'll answer. Just let us know what you're talking about.
You're talking about Star Trek, The Next Generation, and you haven't seen any of it.
It could be Fallout if they're talking about that.
Maybe it could be. Best show of the year.
What's your thoughts on like Eugene switch up? Like do you like that he kind of switches sides up until this point?
He's so flip floppy, and I don't like it.
I think it makes a lot of sense, but it's frustrating to watch. Like,
yeah, it is frustrating.
Like he is the character that like he'll do whatever it takes to kind of like live, even if it hurts his soul. You know what I mean?
Do you want to know why it's more frustrating? Glenn's death until the war is about like to where you're at. Glenn's death until where you're at is, I think, 2.5 weeks.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, Eugene has switched sides like 4 times in 2.5 weeks.
And he keeps like going back and forth to be like, I don't know what's going on. Yeah.
so
The
little
timeline in
time.
the show is so
No.
weird. Like each
Sasha
time,
like dies like what? Like a week after Abraham dies? Like 2 weeks after Abraham
oh
dies?
my gosh.
Let me double check that. I just know season 8 is super short. Season 8 is like 2 weeks total. I think season 7 is like a week before that.
I need like a timeline book that just says like
There,
when each episode airs.
I'll
Is
send
there?
you the Walking Dead. Yeah, the Walking Dead wiki has like it, but you should probably like visit it after you finish the spin-offs
Yeah,
because it kind of
sure.
has them all in it.
Sure.
Let me see. Yeah, because they have it laid out by like months as well, but like March 6th, March 7th.
Yeah, because like the whole show is like 3 years, right?
The first 9 seasons are.
19. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's crazy to think, especially Carl.
It is, yeah.
Which, like, it feels like it's been 10 years for him, and it's just been like 3 years, 2 years.
Yeah.
Harper said season 9 is actually my favorite. Hell yeah!
Oh yeah, hell yeah!
I'm
Season
really
9
excited.
lover in the chat. Like we
Hell
never
yeah.
see that.
I need it. I need it right now. I'm feeling.
Yeah,
I'm
season 9
feeling
is
the
so good.
burn. I'm feeling like I feel like I'm stalling out a little bit. Like by this point, I'm just like, all right, whatever.
Season 9 is just it's such a welcome change.
Yeah.
Of the show.
Because like season 7, I didn't feel like it wasn't my favorite, but I wasn't like you need to change everything about the show. Like where this season, I'm like, oh yeah, you need to switch up for sure.
Yeah. Okay, here you go. Right.
Okay.
Glenn and Abraham die on May 3rd, and then where's the season? Where's where you're at? Where's where Carl dies?
He what?
No,
Spoilers.
Okay, right, yeah, right. Glenn dies on May 3rd. Glenn and Abraham die on May 3rd. Sasha dies on May 15th.
Oh my god!
So that's 12 days. And then Carl dies on June 2nd. So May 3rd to June 2nd, just under a month to where you're at.
The day after my birthday. How dare they kill me?
They did that.
How dare they? No, I'm gonna hopefully get done with season 8 within these next couple of days because I am just excited to move on. Because again, I hear it's better. I hear 9 improves.
9 is so good.
All right, we should actually probably get into the main topic now. We've stalled around for a bit.
Sure.
But yeah, we're talking about some of our favorite franchises that aren't Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and Disney. So let's kind of jump into our first one here, which is Mr. Star Trek. Mr. Star Trek, my favorite franchise of all time.
It is your favorite. It is your favorite franchise. I also really appreciate you used the beautiful artwork from the Variety article that they released last week.
I was like, which photos can get me the most? Get the most characters included.
I think it's crazy how they were able to fit all the main people in here. Like it's crazy. Like that's 10 TV shows, 13 movies worth of people they fit in there. More even. It's like, it'd be about 10 or 11 shows. But yeah, no, Star Trek it's like probably the first franchise I would say I was ever like seriously into. Kind of like grew up with it. And it's like it's at its height at the moment. Like we've got so many shows coming out. We've got 6 movies in the works. 6 movies. We've got a brand new TV show shooting this summer, the Starfleet Academy show, which is being described as like a CW-esque Star Trek show that's set in the school for people who want to join Starfleet. It's got the biggest set ever built for a Star Trek series. That's really exciting. They're saying that this is an entry point for new viewers. So if you want to watch a young adult Star Trek show, you got Starfleet Academy coming. Just saying.
I'll consider it.
Yeah, you should consider it.
Let me know when it comes out. Maybe I'll.
It's like 2 years away. I think it'll be 2026 probably. But yeah, no, just the movies are exciting. I just think like this is one of the most underrated franchises of all time because I feel like despite how big and how iconic it is, you don't find a lot of people who watch it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like how many people we had over the last few months that we've talked about Star Trek and they have said they've not watched it or they're not into it or whatever. And like the valid, like it's a big franchise, but it's one of the nerdiest franchises of all time, and it doesn't have a lot of presence in the nerd space. Like it doesn't feel like there's a lot of people in kind of our area that watches it. No, it's like I'm going like blanking out, but it's so good. It's so good. I think 5 or 6 of the Star Trek shows are in my top 50 shows of all time. I think like Next Generation has some of the most iconic cliffhangers of all time. Like Picard being Locutus Borg at the end of season 3 is, in my opinion, the most iconic television cliffhanger of all time. And Star Trek's also such an influential franchise in terms of what it's inspired and what it's sort of led up to, what it's sort of trailblazed on TV. Like it had one of the first LGBTQ plus representations on Deep Space Nine in the
Yeah.
1990s. It was like 1992, an episode, or 1994, I think, an episode came out that depicted the woman in a relationship with another woman, and it was like that was just completely unheard of. It was
Right.
the episode itself was like completely attacked at the time on television because they were like, "How can you put this on family television?" And they were like, "Well, Star Trek's always been a thing that's done this. That's kind of like broken through those boundaries." And
Yeah.
it's frustrating because I mean, not all fans, but there's a lot of fans today who are against and are like, Star Trek's gone woke, stuff like that, because Star Trek now has sort of, you know, it's got non-binary people at the forefront of Star Trek Discovery. You've got sort of they're depicting every corner of human life, and people are saying Star Trek is woke. Star Trek has always been woke. You've just not been paying attention to it apparently
Yeah.
because it didn't fit into your to whatever your narrative is. It's just yeah, I think it's to me this is the most important franchise of all time just in terms of what it's inspired and what it's led to. Like so many
Sure.
technological and scientific advancements that we've achieved are because of Star Trek. Like tablets, like as in like iPads, stuff like that wouldn't exist without Star Trek. So many of the space developments that happened in the 1980s and 1990s would not have happened without Star Trek inspiring them. A generation of astronauts because of Star Trek. The
Right.
first sort of interracial kiss on television happened on Star Trek. Like there's so many of those things that it's kind of you take away that franchise, you lose a lot of very influential things. But yeah,
I agree. Just as someone who doesn't, I don't even know what I've seen. I think I've seen like one episode of one of the shows one time. Like there's really, I haven't seen much, but like even not seeing anything really, like I know how important it is to pop
sure,
culture.
yeah.
Like I grew up with my grandma loving one of the runs of Star Trek. I don't know which one, but like she loved it, and obviously you hear all about it. Obviously, I've heard all about like the 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 like Kiss and what
Yeah,
they've done for certain groups of people is unimaginable. And that's actually a really good point that like you bring up. Like you said, the underrated. I was like underrated. It's Star Trek, but like what do you think about it? Like you're right. Like I feel like it doesn't have a presence like
yeah,
a lot like your Marvel and DC and Star Wars and a lot of these things. And I would argue it's probably more consistent than a lot of these big franchises, right? Like they're constant. I never hear a lot of people. I hear people don't like stuff, but like I'm never hearing like Star Trek went bad. Like I feel like they're
there's a
pretty
lot of it,
consistent, right?
unfortunately.
Yeah,
There's like
yes.
on
I'm
my
not in
channel
that world, I guess. I just
since I started covering it, it's like
yeah,
the videos are doing well, but the replies, like the comment section, is nonstop filled with people being like, "Star Trek Discovery sucks. It's the worst TV show I've ever seen in my life. It killed my dog." Like, it's I don't know. It's just and the Variety article that they released the other week that the artwork's from, they talked about in that like the presence that Star Trek currently has, and you have people from like involved in Star Trek saying that the franchise doesn't have the impact that Marvel and Star Wars currently has
mm,
because Star Trek fans generally skew older. Like
sure,
you rarely come across sort of younger Star Trek fans, unfortunately.
yeah,
Um, because of that, the fandom is sort of stagnated where it's not growing, but the people that are in it
right,
are very devoted and diehard fans to their old eras of Star Trek where they don't want to accept a whole lot of new things. Now, obviously,
mm,
that's not the case for everybody. Like, I've stumbled onto some areas on Twitter where it's like people who just love Discovery and are like, this is some of the greatest Star Trek of all time. But it's the same as every fandom. Like, there's always corners where people are going to be negative and where people are going to be positive.
mhm. There's sometimes that I kind of wish that fandoms can kind of stay in one central area in a weird
Yeah,
way. Like I feel like again, I don't. It's not like as much in my knowledge, but like I think a lot with Marvel and stuff where it's like I think a lot of Marvel fans should stop watching Marvel because they're clearly not
you're not
enjoying what
liking it.
they're putting out. Like it's just
Yeah,
like we're gonna keep watching and like complaining about it. Sometimes it's like hey, let's just watch the show and enjoy the show. Why not? Like, we don't
Yeah.
have to comment on everything and like botch on everything when it comes to Marvel and Star Wars and stuff like that. DC or like Star Trek does feel like they're kind of staying in their own lane, even if there is like negative stuff in it. It feels like they're over there and they stay over there, and that's kind of cool, I think. Three Dubs, I, as someone who doesn't watch it, I agree. Seems like they're missing the point of what Star Trek is.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, like that's the thing. Like, Star Trek's always been progressive. It's always been pushing the boundaries. It's like, you know, in the 90s they had Kate Mulgrew as the star of a Star Trek show. She was the captain of Voyager, and that was a boundary broken time. Like, to have a female captain as a headliner of a major science fiction franchise, that's crazy to do back in the 90s, and now it's just commonplace. But like back then, it was this whole new thing. And it's like Star Trek's always been doing things a little bit ahead of everyone else, and it's still doing that. But for some reason, a lot of fans are like, no, not like this.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean not like this? This is the franchise is doing what it's always done.
Yeah. It's, I mean, we could go into it and talk about like that culture all day. We did it last week. We probably did the week before.
Yeah.
It's just, they have a new narrative that they like to push, and they think it's bad because A, B, and C, but really, it's always been like that. X-Men is currently in the same spot, but X-Men's woke. It's like, no, that's literally the point of the X-Men.
Yeah, that's the point of their characters.
You're literally, you were never fans if you think it's woke, or you forgot what it
never
means
understood
to be.
them.
Yeah. Crazy to me.
For sure.
Do you have other stuff that you would like to talk about here?
No, I'm all good there.
Okay.
We should watch it.
Eventually, I want to do it. Eventually, once I clear out a lot of the things, I think I would. I like, but there's a lot of stuff to catch up on. I'm currently really enjoying like the Walking Dead journey. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but like, it really is bringing me back to like the Arrowverse times where I would just have like 15 seasons of the Arrowverse to watch through. You know, just like there's always stuff coming up and for me to go through. So someday I will get to it. I promise. Next up, something we've already talked about today, the Avatar universe. I think really recently, especially, like, I was late on this world. I was really late. Like, this is a 2000 show. This was a my generation type of franchise. I didn't watch it until COVID, though. Like, I didn't watch it until everyone was locked down. It came on Netflix, and everyone was kind of watching it for the first time then. And perfect time to watch that show. Like, I don't know how far you're into it, but like, it's such a perfect COVID wholesome like series that I think just teaches you all the right lessons. And like this past year when I was like rewatching it for the upcoming show, the newest live action show, I think I just found such a new appreciation for I think what the show is. I think it has some of the most serious and heartfelt moments and scenes. I love its world building. I love what it stands for. I think it can tell stories that most shows are afraid to tell. And it's a take I've had. I think when animated, or not even just that, like when shows aimed at children are done well, they are some of the most impressive shows to ever come out, because they not only are telling an amazing show, they also have these boundaries that they have to avoid. They have to be like people at like Nickelodeon and stuff being like, can't do that, can't do that, can't do that. You know, so I think the fact that they were, I'll talk about like some of the other things in a second that goes with the franchise, but like just this show alone, the fact that they were able to make, in my opinion, one of the greatest shows of all time under Nickelodeon in 3 seasons with like budget backlash and stuff like that is amazing. And I think those lessons that they showed kids at the time and even adults now, like how far they were able to go is incredible to me. And you're not there yet, but there's a character. I don't want to go too much into it because I'm trying to be like, don't say this, but like there is a character in the show that has one of the greatest journeys, in my opinion, in fiction. I've never seen a character have a better character arc in fiction. And I don't think there ever will be. I think it's and like once you get to that point in the show, you'll be like, oh, I get what you mean.
Okay, interesting.
So I love the world. I love the feeling. The music also. I don't know if you've noticed the music inside the show.
Yeah, it's been great.
amazing music. I want you to watch Korra at some point just for you to experience the music. 'Cause there's
Okay.
times I'm just like, I'm someone, I don't get music a lot. Like we've talked about this, I don't get music like other people. And there's moments in Korra I'm not watching the scene because I'm too my
Just
brain's
listen to music.
off there. Just like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, it's so
I feel
good.
that.
But yeah, no, I love Avatar. I love Korra. We'll go into that because that's a whole nother show of spoilers I don't want to give out. But I love the world that they were able to build here. This complete. I also think it's impressive. Like such an original thing. Wasn't, again, not based on comic books. It's not based on something from like the 90s. It was this completely original show. Had 3 seasons, and it sparked this entire generation. 15 years after the show ended, people are still talking about it. This one show sparked an entire studio to be based around it. Like, its accomplishments is unmatched. But I love Korra. Avatar Studios is something I'm so incredibly excited to kind of dive into. Like all the projects that they've have come out and been like, yeah, those are all things I'd love to see. So I'll leave that there. But hopefully one day we can.
I agree. I think like the I haven't gotten too far into it, but I've constantly been hearing from friends and on Twitter and stuff like that how fantastic and amazing the show is. So obviously it's had a huge impact on a lot of people. And what you said about like having a kids show that is this good, or like making a show that's sort of aimed towards kids, it is also this good for kind of people of all ages, is such an accomplishment. I think that that's always the best thing shows like this can do, is when you're setting out to make a show, not make it like you said, it to make a show that's sure kids can watch it, but don't primarily make it just for kids. Make it a show that everyone can enjoy, and then like the if it's make it suitable for kids, but it should be a show that kind of is that lasts out, like no matter how old you are.
Fully, I say, and I don't even think it's a hot take because I think a lot of people would agree with the statement, but like I think this is the perfect TV show, and I say that because like. It's in conversations, I think, with like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and a lot of these like big shows. But what I think makes it perfect is that like I can't show my grandma Breaking Bad because she might have a heart attack. How what that show is. Avatar, I feel like I could show my grandma. I could also show my 5-year-old cousin, and I think every single person is going to take something out of that show and experience with the show. Where like Sopranos, I probably couldn't do that with everyone. Maybe not everyone's going to take away from that where they are in their lives, where they are in certain like situations.
Hey, everybody can watch Sopranos. Everybody.
Sure.
Isn't like Tony Soprano runs a strip club or anything, but he can't. Yeah. You can show it to anybody.
Sure. No, but that's another show I need to watch at some point. But no, Avatar, good. I love it. I can't wait for them to do more with it. I'm ready. All right, let's move on to your next one. The Walking Dead. Let's see you move around
the Vampire Diaries universe.
I also found this art from the series finale. It was like, don't look too closely. There might be something.
Oh, wow, there's a lot of characters on here you haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I was just like, don't look too close. I don't think there's spoilers on here, but maybe.
Yeah, no, it doesn't look like there's spoilers. There's a lot of characters you wouldn't recognize yet.
Yeah. I recognize a lot, though.
You do recognize a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
They put a Reaper on there?
I know. I think this art was done for the series, the final episode of season 11, and I saw it on like the Walking Dead like main page. I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Oh, interesting.
I love this.
No, yeah, Walking Dead universe is like we've talked about it a decent bit the last few weeks.
Yeah.
Walking Dead itself, like the main show, is one of my favorite shows of all time. I think the first 5 seasons of that is up there with like some of the most enjoyable television watching experiences I've ever had. I think season 9 is also fantastic. And then even the other seasons, like even though I don't love them as much, all of them still have scenes or have episodes that I'm like, this is amazing. And then Fear the Walking Dead, like we've talked about Walking Dead so much that I'm gonna talk about Fear the Walking Dead for a minute. But like season 1 of Fear the Walking Dead is I'll be spoiler free. But Fear the Walking Dead season 1 is like it's solid. Season 2 is better. Season 3 is one of the greatest seasons of television I've ever seen. Like I hate what happened to Fear the Walking Dead after season 3, but season 3 alone is like it feels real in terms of the main Walking Dead show. It's got seasons where it never really feels like they're dealing with this wider universe, like or this wider kind of like what's happening in the country sort of thing. Like with Rick's group, they always are pretty secluded, always pretty on their own. In Fear the Walking Dead season 3, they're dealing with like military and stuff like that, and you're kind of seeing sort of this world you're seeing things outside of just this secluded little group. You're starting to see how other groups are reacting to things, how other groups are dealing with things, and it makes everything feel so realistic. And you're like, this is how these spin-offs should be done. And then it was different after season 3. They kind of rebooted the show pretty much. But I think Brandon Davis, he's a huge Walking Dead fan. You know, the guy on Twitter who does Marvel stuff a lot.
Mhm.
He's a huge Walking Dead guy, and I think a few months ago he tweeted that Fear the Walking Dead season 3 was the peak of the Walking Dead universe. That and he's like Walking Dead is his favorite show of all time. He was like Fear the Walking Dead season, because somebody posted a scene from it, and he just quote tweeted it, and it was like, this is the best season of the Walking Dead universe. The universe peaked with this show. Like, the Walking Dead as a whole might be the better show, but Fear the Walking Dead season 3 is kind of that ceiling that even the main show just barely never reached. I mean, I kind of disagree with that. I think season 4 or 5 of the main show are peak, but I think Fear the Walking Dead season 3 is so close.
Yeah.
But Rick Grimes is one of the he might be my favorite TV character of all time, honestly. I think, oh man, he's just so cool. Season 4, season 5, season 6, and season 8 Rick are just, there's nothing like it on TV. It's just you're not used to seeing sort of a main character that is so morally ambiguous in terms of he starts off as a hero, but by a certain point, you know, he's essentially a villain. And it's not like Breaking Bad, where it's clear Walt is the villain by the end of season 5. With Walking Dead, it's you still have to support Rick because he's still going up against bad guys, but he's starting to become just as bad as them in ways, and it's so interesting. I love the character work of the show.
I love storylines with that kind of idea, and I would agree. As early as season 2, I was kind of seeing the writing there and be like, oh yeah, they're clearly going to be putting him in a place where we have this.
I'll kill my best friend for you people.
So great. Yeah. The 100 did a very similar thing. That's kind of where the first thing I saw was
Clark killing Finn. Was
it?
Yeah.
By season 5, it's you're worse than the people that kidnapped and tortured us 3 seasons ago. You guys suck. You know what I mean?
Weather shit was dark. Yeah. Her and Bellamy being that show, man.
Clark. Oh man, I part of me wants to rewatch the show at some point again. I genuinely love that show so much. But no, you're right. And I've been. Again, I feel like I can't comment on the universe as a whole yet because I'm still in the first show. To make it a franchise, I would have to watch some of the other stuff to expand upon. But this is kind of the one show where it does already feel like a universe. It already does feel like they've there's already such a massive thing where it's oh yeah, it's not technically a universe yet. I haven't seen them expand it, but it's so big. It feels so wide and open, and there's so many different characters, and I've genuinely loved the journey I've gone on. I love how big the world is and how many characters that they can show and how many characters I love. Yeah. And even now, even now where I'm it doesn't feel as personal. I feel I do love mostly all the characters. I genuinely love the journey they're going on, and I feel none of them feel stagnant. It does kind of, for the most part, they feel
they change
they're
all the time,
moving forward, not just kind of standing in the same spot. So I think that's cool.
The stories change the characters for sure. You rarely see a character go through a storyline that they don't come out different because of it.
Yeah. Fruit Dubs, we don't talk about that moment. We don't.
Season 7 is very. It's one of the more disappointing seasons of TV I've seen, I think.
It was rough for me. I liked aspects of that season, but what they did with that character has to be one of the biggest slaps in a face.
For sure.
I don't mean to change horses, but shippers aside, I know people ship them and that sucks for you, but just as a character, I would argue Bellamy at some point becomes a bigger character than Clark at times. He is the co-lead of that show.
Yeah,
and he is for one. And I know he asked for less time that season, so it's not all their fault. But
same thing they did with Fitz. Give him less time in the final season.
I think Fitz was done way better, though. I think Fitz
was I think he was done way better, but I still hate that he was not in much of the final season.
Yeah, but that's imagine doing that where he's not in the whole season and he comes back in episode 8 and Mac is just all right, kill you, Fitz.
Everybody thought they did that. Remember the episode where they're going into Gemma's mind, like in the one with Enoch, where it's the Groundhog Day episode, and they're going in trying to get the chip, but she keeps like they can't get the chip out. Enoch kills him beforehand. Everybody thought that was happening because Fitz was dead, and that Gemma wouldn't be able to handle the fact he was dead, and her
Right.
mind would break. And everyone was like, if they killed Fitz off screen, like
That'd be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sad. But thankfully they didn't, and they gave him a good
yeah,
ending.
they didn't.
Which I'm trying to think. He didn't come back at the end, right? Like he wasn't at the end at all. So
Enoch?
no, Bell. I don't think he was in the final scene at all, right?
Oh, sorry, we're talking about the 100.
Yeah, sorry.
No, yeah, he didn't.
He didn't. Which I was waiting for something like that to happen. I was like, oh, he's gonna come back and like a ghost or something. But no,
they brought back Alexa, but not him.
Which is kind of nuts. Which I love that. I did love that scene. It got me a lot of views.
That was for shippers. It's like Lexa is the person who comes back to Clark and not Bellamy.
That was so fun. I don't mean to get way off track. I know we're like way behind, but like I had made that like video being like, well, Lexa coming back, and that video had there's no like the proof I was showing in that video had nothing to do with the way she came back. And after that episode aired, I had like 12 people being like, he was right. I was just like, y'all,
he's a prophet.
I did nothing. I was
so
guessing. But yeah, let's move on. A bit of a change shift, and I wasn't. Oh, man, I'm actually shocked I put this on my list. I have the Rocky franchise.
Oh damn! Okay.
I know. I couldn't believe it, but when I was looking at some of my favorite franchises, Rocky kept coming up in my mind. I love the Rocky movies. I don't know how much of these you've seen. If you've watched them all, yeah. You've seen them all. Okay.
I've seen all of them. Yeah.
I love Rocky. These are one of the first franchises like I remember like watching all of as a kid. Like I remember like the Rocky franchise, like the Back to the Future franchises, like those were like Ghostbusters, maybe not. I don't know. Like those were Rocky was a core part of my childhood. Like sure, I had a like DVD that had the first 5 movies on. It was like a box set with the first 5, and I would just watch them over and over. And I think some of those. I don't know if I ever like implemented them into like my day-to-day lives, but just like the implements and the stories of like you gotta get up, you gotta stand back up and keep fighting, keep going. Yeah. The character of Rocky is probably in my favorite fictional characters list. Like I love Rocky, and I love his love story. I think it's gorgeous. I think Rocky 4 is one of the most shocking film moments of all time for me, where we see Creed dies. Like that's an
iconic movie moment.
It's and the story of like having to take his place and rising up to the top. And so all those movies are so iconic for me. This is my hot take. I know a lot of people don't like Rocky 5, and I think that's valid. Or Rocky either 5 or 6.
Rocky 5. Yeah. Like where it's like his son, he's like fighting in the alley is like the final fight.
I know a lot of people hate that movie. It's my hot take. I don't think there's a bad installment in this franchise. I think every movie is.
I think Rocky 5 is pretty bad, but it's the only one I would say that about.
I personally disagree. I personally, and I won't say that much, but it's the weakest. I think it's by far the weakest of the films, but I still really love it. I think that's the one that has like one of my favorite scenes in the Rocky, where he's like yelling at his son to be like, no, like this is how it is now, and it's like it's so good. And then I think the Creed films, push these ideas and these storylines even further. That they're so good, as you can kind of like. I think it's hard to do to make these franchises like not only like respect the past and what they've done prior,
embrace
but then make something just as iconic. Yeah, and I know people have some problems with Creed 3. I think Creed 3 is my favorite of all. Like,
okay.
Like that theater experience was something special, and almost throughout the entirety of it, outside of one scene, I'm not just like, where's Rocky now? Like I'm so invested in Creed's story. Like the final fight scene in 3 is like one of the coolest like theater moments I've had. Just like, this is so cool. I can't believe they're pulling it off like this. But yeah, I didn't
love Creed 3, but I thought it was good.
I love it. I love it. And I'm a bit concerned with where we're taking the franchise. Like we're getting like Creed an anime 4. Stuff. We're getting an anime. We're apparently getting like a spin-off with like the child, and I'm just like, all right, we'll see. I would have been okay if you ended at Creed 3, if that was kind of your wrap-up. Maybe the ending needs to have Rocky in it. I don't know if that's ever going to happen now. There's even rumors of like, because even then you have like the spin-off of like the villain from the second movie, and then there's rumors about like a Rocky series like that takes place with like it's like a prequel. So like there's a lot of Rocky stuff coming out, which I'm excited for, but I'm also nervous.
I think the Rocky stuff shouldn't be a universe. I think the Creed stuff is great because the Creed stuff feels like a good legacy sequel. But I think like
Yeah,
going like, Rocky prequel films, Rocky villain spin-offs, Rocky animes, I
it's a
think
lot. Yeah.
that's I don't know. I don't know if we need all that.
I'm here to see what they do with it, but I wouldn't say I'm like super excited.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll see. We'll see. Let's move on to
I'll
our next
watch
one.
it, but we'll see.
Kind of very in line. I feel like these two franchises in my head are like one and the same at points, and that's the Karate Kid
Yeah,
universe.
yeah, for sure.
Feels like one inspires the other, or at least Rocky really inspires points of Cobra Kai and the
Yeah.
Karate Kid world.
Have you seen the Karate Kid films?
Oh yeah. Oh, I love
Okay,
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I don't think we ever talked about the films, have we?
Oh, I love the movies. That like Rocky, Karate Kid, and I think Back to the Futures were some of those big films for me growing up.
Okay, cool.
Love the first Karate Kid. I actually think the first
Yeah.
Karate Kid is my favorite film list as well. Like
It is, yeah. The very first Karate Kid's in my favorite films all the time. It's so iconic.
I think it's one of the most iconic movies I've ever seen. Like Mr. Miyagi,
body bag, man.
Mr. Miyagi is another like potential greatest fictional characters of all time for me. Like,
completely agree.
So good.
I'll let you take the scene where in the first film where Miyagi is explaining how he heard his wife was dead or something to Daniel, and he's like crying. He's like talking about like the war and all that. It's so deep, and it's so well done. Yeah, Cobra Kai is one of my favorite shows of the last like 5 to 6 years. I think I don't know when season 1 came out, 2018. But I think it's just fantastic. It's such a really good follow-up to the films as well, where you can tell the people making the show is in love with the films just by how much they bring back, how much they call back. Like I think they even referenced the animated series at one point, which the animated series is something that barely anybody's seen. But yeah, I think you like in terms of legacy sequels and legacy follow-ups, you cannot do better than Cobra Kai. And I'm excited to see what they do in season 6, and I'm excited to see what the new Karate Kid film is. I think the only Karate Kid film I don't like is the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank. It's got Walton Goggins though, but never really been too into it.
Yeah, that's the one. It's weird because I feel like because they never get as good as the first one. Like I think the first one peaks, and then the ones after that are they're a bit silly, they're a bit out there, but they are just some of my favorite films ever. They truly are. Just like I actually think the second one's really good. Like I know that one gets hate, but like I don't think
2 is really good.
Like I don't think 3 is very good. I don't think the fourth one is very good either. But I love them. Like they're just they're so good. And I even like the reboot. I think like the James Smith movie, like as far as reboots go and kind of giving your own spin on a franchise, I enjoy.
I mean, is it a reboot? Because Jackie Chan going up.
Not anymore.
Jackie Chan's going to be in a film.
It's also true. It's so crazy how we got here as just like a franchise. Like it's like a couple 5-6 years ago, there was nothing Karate Kid, and now it's like here 6 seasons of a TV show and a spinoff where we're bringing in all the different characters. It's like, whoa! So
6 seasons of a spinoff that beats most of the films. Insane.
I'd argue that Cobra Kai improved all the movies.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it improves on all of them for sure.
Like I love those movies, but like I think the show just like it makes them so much more special. To see where characters end up, to see. I mean, Silver. Like I was always kind of on Silver as the villain, and the show was like, I love that movie now because of him. Like
I love their explanation where Terry's like, I was on coke that whole time, because like that was a theory like for the film was like, oh, Terry Silver's so crazy because he's trying to kill this kid, he's on cocaine all the time, and then the film's like, yeah, no, I was terrorizing a kid.
Yeah,
it's so funny,
and it makes Daniel and Johnny such better characters. Like Daniel was always they were always good characters, but like. When you see their journey and you're so much more invested in the original movies. It's amazing. I love it.
It's one of those few things that you're 100% right. It just improved on everything from the original. And the fights. I don't know if I've seen much better choreographed fights. Yeah. Like those two All Valley episodes in season 4 are insane. Yeah. Like the fight between Tori and Sam, and then the fight between Robbie and Miguel. Like those, and then the fight between Hawk and Robbie, like they're both just crazy good.
The school fight scene is insane. Like
the school fight scene as well. I think the season 3 final fight scene is my favorite one. The one where they're in the house and like they just like break into the LaRusso house and start fighting. It's just it's so good.
Yeah, and I love how like they're not afraid to commit to the corniness of it all. Like I feel like
they know what they are.
no, they fully do. Like the films are goofy. They're goofy
Yeah,
movies.
they're
Like
cheesy.
you have a karate fight to the death. You have the kids pushing Daniel off a cliff. Like
Yeah,
these films are unironically very goofy. And I think when you do a show, you could try to make it more serious, try to make it more like streamlined. They're like, no, they're fighting in a school. There's a full school up brawl because we got karate gangs. Like
yeah,
they don't care. They do not care, and I
they do
love
not
that.
care.
And there's like, there's a part of me that's like, well, did that make sense? I have to literally, and I love doing it. It's the only show I feel like I love doing it. I can turn off my brain and I can watch one of the greatest shows on TV because I don't need to take that show seriously. It's
Yeah.
so good. So yeah, love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, my next one, The Hunger Games. This
You
one
should eat,
happened.
man.
This one
If you're hungry, you
happened.
should eat.
I should probably get some food. No, this one I think happened very recently. Like I watched these movies in COVID. I think it was COVID. Yeah, no, it was like right before COVID. Like school was about to kind of get shut down and stuff. I watched these movies, and I really enjoyed them. I thought they were really fun. But when this new one came out, like I had watched the new one that just came out, and I was like, this is something special that I feel like I didn't quite put the respect on at the time. I feel like I didn't quite get all these themes and ideas that the show was trying to get. So after seeing that new one, I was like, I'm gonna go rewatch all the movies. I'm gonna start reading the books. Now I haven't quite finished all the books yet. I finished the last movie last night, like rewatching it, and I would agree with everyone that one kind of sucks. That one's not great. But like I feel like this is one of the first times. I'm not a big reader. I just don't have the time. I don't have like the push to do that. But like this is one of the first times in a while I've loved this thing, and now I'm going to go and read the books, and like some of my favorite world building I've seen in a franchise in a while of how in depth they go. It's like, hey, do you like that movie? All right, now here's 8 extra hours of it in the first book. It's like that improved the first movie and improved the second movie. And I haven't read the final 2 books yet, but I assume it's definitely going to improve the third and fourth. I have a feeling it's going to do that. And I love this world. The world that they built in this universe is so fascinating. I love these and we've already talked about a few at this point, but like these real end of the world. I love stories where literally everything in the world has to change, right? Like something happens, this thing happens, and the entire government, the entire way we think about our world views and our characters, it's changing. We're starting over from scratch. I think is fascinating. I think how the Hunger Games, just like the Hunger Games as a concept is so famous now. Like just the idea, like Hunger Games is just like a quotable thing. Everyone does their own like that's just a game that people play now. But like you have like the online thing where you just go through and who would win in this.
Hunger Games led to the Minecraft Hunger Games game, thing, which everybody played in like 2012, 2013, and then that led to Battle Royales. So that led to PUBG, Fortnite, all that sort of stuff came because of Hunger Games.
Ahead of its time, 100%. Like what Fortnite is. I've thought about a lot, like while watching the movies. And I was like, I would love a video game about the Hunger Games. So I was like, oh yeah, that's just Fortnite.
It's like you got it.
Yeah, right there. Just
boy, do I have a game for you.
Here's 20 actually, because everyone's doing it.
Yeah, everybody's doing it.
But no, I love the characters they built in this world. I love how unironically dark this world is and how emotional. One of the biggest, I think, like heart drop moments in a movie, and I love that moment, is that, and it's really hard in the book, but like when oh my gosh, I'm bad with names. But when like what Woody Harrelson's character, he has to find out that he's going back in the ring after being retired for so many years, and the pain in that scene, and even for like all of them, where they're realizing for the first time they won, they escaped, and they have to go back in, and they have to once again say goodbye to their families and friends, is so heart-wrenching. But I love it. I love this world. I love the world that they built, the characters. It's just one of my favorites. I've really enjoyed getting into it.
For sure. Yeah, no, I am. I've always. I like the films. I think they're good. I've watched all of them around when they came out. Like I
Yeah.
think I've seen every single one in cinema, including Songs and Snakes, or I always forget
Mhm.
the name of it. But yeah, I think they're good. They're really solid films. I think Catching Fire and then the new one are like the best in my opinion. The ones I
Yeah,
like the
I agree.
most. Then the first one's solid, and I don't really like the two Mockingjay films that much.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I like the first one. I liked it quite a bit. It was definitely my least favorite, like compared to the other ones. I really like, and this is one of the only friends that I've ever had this with. Like, I do like the politics of Hunger Games because I
sure,
think
yeah,
it's fascinating. So I think the first one it worked very well with me. Like, I loved how much of the war is just like marketing. Like, that's such an interesting idea. Like, the only way we're winning this war if there's an icon that people can root for, and you're going to be that. And it's just like, no, I want to go fight them. It's like that's actually not how you can help us. I think that's
yeah,
all fascinating. And then the last one just kind of plops you in the middle. And I think if you were watching it all at once, maybe it'd be better. But it's just like, all right, we're in the middle of like the end of the second half of your movie. Here it is. It's just like, oh yeah, this is kind of boring for most of it.
yeah,
But I still love the story that they are telling in the movie. Like I'm still actively enjoying it, which I think I'm really excited for the book because I do think like being able to tell it in one sitting, like in one long story, will be better than two separate ones. Um,
sure, yeah,
but yeah, I'm excited to finish the books, and I would love more. Like the author has said, like I'm done doing the books, and they're not allowed to do any more movies without more books. So I think we're done for now, at least. But I'd love like I would love to see Finnick. I would love to see all like some of these other Hunger Games stories and see what their stories are like. So that's just me. I don't know.
no, for sure, that'd be cool.
Yep. Alrighty, let's move right along. Band of Brother
Oh yeah,
universe thing, kind of.
yeah. So not really a franchise or a universe, but it's kind of connected, I guess, because they got like the three major series: Band of Brothers, Pacific, and Masters of the Air, which to me are three of the best miniseries of all time. Like all three of them are on my top shows of all time lists, and Band of Brothers is in my top 10. Like I think like in terms of TV, I think Band of Brothers might be the most well-made TV anything of all time. Like I think just the quality that comes out of that, the cast, the just intensity of it is like
Mm.
nothing else you're gonna see. It's just absolutely insane. I love how kind of Band of Brothers and the Pacific and the Masters of the Air all showcase three very different areas of the war. Like the you got Easy Company like landing in France. You got the Pacific front with the Marines in the Pacific, and then you've got the 8th Air Bombing Group kind of going over Germany and France and all that in Masters of the Air. And I think it's just the way that they do it. It's like unbelievable. When are you watching Band of Brothers, Darren? That's what I want to know. When are you
Uh,
getting to it?
I saw that first episode and I thought
Did
it
you
was
actually?
good. Yeah, I did. I watched the first episode. It was great.
Why'd you not continue? It's so good.
It's good. I bet it is. I don't like war stuff that much, so it's hard for me to
That's
commit.
fair. That's
I,
fair.
I just want to watch it to say I've seen it though. I can say, hey, I've seen one of the greatest shows of all time. Just like when it comes to like a lot of those shows is like
Yeah.
stones. I could be like, I got one more in my I can
Sure,
talk about
yeah,
when I'm talking about new shows, but like one day I will. I'll just be like, watch it in one day and be done with it. Just to watch it. But I've heard each one of these I've heard just be like, hey, this is some of the best stuff ever.
Yeah.
Like I think that's impressive. I think that's really impressive.
Think of it as just the Hunger Games, but in the past, and they had their
Oh.
weapons before they entered the Hunger Games.
Oh.
So, and they're
It's
not
really
kidnapped from their district.
yeah.
They've mostly
It's just a
volunteered.
war. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
it's
a
just
war.
a war. It's just a
Yeah, the
war.
prior. I've actually thought about that thing where it's like, it'd be interesting if we had a project like when it's during the war. It's like, no, you hate war movies. Why are you trying to pitch that?
Like
Like,
World War II Hunger Games.
it's just like if you pitch it to me in a different way, I'm like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
You know? It's an Arrowverse prequel, but set in World War II. It's like, oh, what characters?
Earth
Like,
X.
nope, none. Just random soldiers.
Yeah.
You're like, huh?
That'd be cool.
That's how you had to do it with me. No,
Yeah.
I really wanna watch this stuff. I do.
That you should.
I'll get
It's
to
like
it eventually.
it's one of those things where it's like I genuinely don't think you can see much better made TV like than that. Like I think just the production quality is insane. Like it feels better made than most movies,
Right.
sort of thing. Like it's just I don't know, but it's a tough watch. Like Band of Brothers especially is kind of that show that you're gonna watch all of it and then you're gonna be like, maybe I
Exhausted.
don't need to watch anything for a year. Like it's that kind of project.
Right. That's understandable. I would also say, again, I haven't seen these, but I would imagine like this can really show off what you can do in this medium of like a limited series where it's
Yeah.
like like they get a lot of hate now, and I think we hate on them now because that's all we're getting. But like this idea of like, hey, they did one season. It was like the perfect one season of TV ever
Yeah.
made, and now we're leaving. We're going home, and that's cool. I like when shows can do that, and it's done well.
Yeah. Because like all 3 of these projects are based on books as well, like books that were written by the survivors of the companies that the shows are representing and depicting.
Yeah.
So I think it's like it's also the kind of thing where you can't do another season because like this is based on real people. It covers their entire diaries, from what they went through.
But it would be terrible.
Yeah. There's
13
definitely
Reasons
shows out
Why
there
did
like
that, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, it's like, ooh, what
Well,
are
I
you
don't know if those
doing?
real people, but was it a real person that was based on that?
For which, sorry?
The 13 Reasons Why, was that a real person?
Oh, I don't think that was based on a real
No, it
person.
wasn't.
I think there was
I know it was a book,
something
but it was
similar
like
to that.
I know it was a
Yeah,
book.
it's based on a book, but I think there is something like that that was based on a real person's story.
Sure.
But no, I think like 13 Reasons Why was completely fictional.
Okay, cool. I wasn't sure because like they went past that first season, and like sometimes it felt like, is this disrespectful? Is it like we marketing off of like a dead girl? But I wasn't sure if it was real or not.
Yeah, no, I think it was all fictional.
Just a book. Okay, that makes it better at least. That's not as bad. All right, my next pick here, I could not imagine it being any different. Like I feel like these two universes are so separate, and that's my Ben 10. I had to. No, I mean this is arguably my favorite fictional piece of all time. Like there is never going to be another. I cannot imagine there ever being another piece of fiction that is more important to who I am and my interest growing up as Ben 10. Like it's so crazy how it has kind of happened because like that was my first obsession ever. Like there was nothing really prior to that when it comes to my obsession. Like I feel like we've never really talked about it because obviously there's no like pieces to that, but like it's the most interesting way I think anyone's ever got into a franchise because I didn't even get into the franchise by watching it. I got a book. Someone gave me a guidebook of the show, and I was just reading through the guidebook for a show I've never seen. And I fell in love with the show through that guidebook, and from there I was like, hey mom, can I get these toys for a show I've never seen? I played the video game way before I even watched the show, and it was like me trying to figure out. I had a coloring book, and I was being like, well, these aliens aren't in this book, so where do these come in? And I'm trying to piece up the pieces. What years? I'm saying like maybe 4 years prior to me ever watching the show, and it was such this insane journey for me. And like we can talk about the quality of Ben 10 for a while. Like I could be like, is Ben 10 a good show? And sometimes, very much so. Sometimes it's phenomenal. Sometimes it's not. It definitely has that Arrowverse effect where it's like, oh, sometimes this writing is absolutely horrible. Oh, for every other episode, Ben is a different character, and how they write him can be very frustrating. And like, but like it's so important to me. It's so, and like it's a show that like even the bad stuff, I'm just like, yeah, but it's a kid turning into aliens. That's cool. That's fun. This show isn't big over there, right? It's not as big. No. Is it on like at all, or you just have like nothing?
I don't think I know a single person who watched it growing up. I mean, it might have been a little bit after my time anyway. Like when was it kind of airing?
It first came out in 2005. Was the one?
Oh no, then it would have been like right around my time.
Yeah.
No, then I guess it just didn't really get shown over here at all.
Yeah,
because I can't remember any time it would have come up in conversation with any of my friends or anything.
That's fair. No, I kind of had a feeling it was because like it is a massive show. Like it's a big show in like other places and stuff like that. So it's not like just an American thing. But like I was kind of thinking like maybe it just wasn't a big thing for you. I know Luke watched some of it as a kid. So maybe there's some of that stuff. But no, I love it. And like it's very insane how big it still is because like, every day on Twitter it's still trending. Like people are the last actual show ended about 3 years ago. Like the main universe ended, like the main universe of shows ended back in 2016, and people are still talking about the shows. They're still talking about the aliens. Fan art still being made. YouTube videos are watching it. I think it's actually having like a resurgence within its last couple of years with like reaction channels, and I do think it's a show that was incredibly above its time as far as like superhero content, because again, it wasn't based on comic books. It
Yeah.
wasn't based on like there were some like inspirations. Like fun fact, it was supposed to be an X-Men character at first. Like that's
Oh,
how they
yeah.
kind of pitched it.
I
Yeah,
did not
so
know that.
it was supposed to be like a Marvel character. There's ideas for like a DC character. Like it got there was obviously those ideas, but like in general, this was like this original superhero cartoon on Cartoon Network, and it took the world by storm. Like it's a show that's still one of Cartoon Network's most I think it might be the most popular of like their shows. Like it's
Yeah.
as far as like the franchises, I think it's in like the top 30 most like it made the most money in like the top 30 like franchises of all time. Like its impact is not to be shut down. So I love the franchises. I love the franchise. I love all 4 shows I've seen. I enjoyed the movies, even though those are horrible. Those horrible live action movies were rough. And we're all just kind of patiently waiting to be like, hey, what's next? Like every month or so, they're like, hey, we hear ya. We want to do a new show, but you gotta wait longer. We're just like,
it's like we're aware you exist. You can. You'll never see anything new.
Every year there's like a new article being like a new Ben 10 show is like in the works. We're like, oh cool, what's your source? And just like
where is it?
We'll get back to you on that. You know, it's like
we'll get your source when this is actually real.
Yeah, and it sucks because again, it's so popular. I think it would do very well now. Like I think superhero content. Like I think the audience is still there. You can bring in the new audience. Obviously, there's rumors for like another live action movie, and I'm just like, animation would be nice, please. But I don't know. Yeah, I'll kind of leave that there because I know you haven't seen any of it. But
yeah, I'm not sure if this is something that I ever kind of get involved in either.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
I think. Because like, I thought about that. Was like, would Connor enjoy this franchise? And like, I think parts of it, but I don't think you would like to go on that 13 season journey just to see the good.
I hear that like you got to get through a lot of it before you start to kind of get into it, and I think that
depends on the audience though too. Because some people, the classic show is the best, and like that's valid. But then I'm like, but Alien Force is where I think it gets good, and then like. Oh, that's so weird because like that show, like the first 2 seasons, in my opinion, is the peak of it, and then the the next season is like the worst of the franchise. Like it ends up where like that's like your Arrow season 4. That's like Arrow season 5, and then going to Arrow season 4, and it's just like you know what I mean? But
hey, season 4 is all right. People hate season 4. It's all right.
Think like Daredevil season 2, and then Injustice or like Inhuman season 1. Like it's like
okay, that's a pretty big difference. Yeah, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll stop talking about it now. But someday I will get you to do it. Someday I'll get you to
someday.
When I watch Band of Brothers. That's a fair.
When I get through Ben's 1 through 9. Hey man, do you watch Band of Brothers? I'll watch it. I'll watch the season.
Cool. That 1 season of Band of Brothers over 18 seasons of this. That's a fair trade.
Yeah. Well, I'll watch 1 season. I'll watch 1 episode.
Dang. All right. The Justified universe.
Yeah. There's only 2 shows in this, but they're the way Justified. So there is Justified, the 6th season show that aired on FX from 2010 until 2015, I think.
Yeah.
And then there's Justified City Primeval, which is the follow-up that came out late last year, which originally Quentin Tarantino was supposed to direct, but he dropped out of it. But the way City Primeval ended kind of hinted we were going to get another show at some point that would follow up, because they're like teasing a certain villain from the original show was back now, and like Raylan Givens is once again going to be taken out of retirement. So we might get another show. So it could be a 3-show thing. But like the original Justified show, I mean, I think City Primeval is really good, but the original Justified is easily one of the most well-written shows I've ever seen in my life. I don't think there's another show on TV outside of Deadwood, which is another Timothy Olyphant show. But outside of Deadwood, I think Justified is the only other show that hits on its lines of dialogue so consistently. Every other line that comes out of Raylan Givens' mouth is something that's just iconic or one of the best lines you've ever heard in anything. And it's just like, I would put him up there with Rick Grimes in terms of one of the best TV characters of all time. Like, I think Raylan in certain seasons of Justified is just like Rick in the best seasons of Walking Dead, in terms of that sort of, the guy who used to be in law enforcement, and now he's sort of, well, he still is in law enforcement in Raylan Givens' way, but like sometimes he loses it, He just goes out of his way. But yeah, it's fantastic. Some of the best written characters on TV, some of the best characters on TV. Walton Goggins' villain, Boyd, is so good. It's Walton Goggins' best role in my opinion.
Yeah, this is a franchise I have nothing to add.
You gotta watch Justified.
I know. No, like I know of this show. There's a couple of shows I really only know of because you've talked about it like over the years. Yeah. Like there's an interest to being like he talks so highly about the show. I would like to do it. Leftovers, bro. It's higher on. Great as well. Leftovers is high on that list of like he says it's so good. This seems up my alley. Soon.
Leftovers is amazing.
Not yet. Where this one doesn't feel like it'd be up my alley. Like it seems like it's kind of lesser on the.
It's a modern Western.
Yeah.
So like, it's you take Western characters, you put them in present day, you pretty much get this show. Walker wishes it was Justified. But like some of the things he says are so cool. Like there's a scene where he pushes the bad guy into the ground and he drops a bullet on their chests and he just goes, next one's coming faster. There's just lines of dialogue like that are just like, you just don't see anything this naturally cool and stylistic on any other TV show out there. He says things like, what do me and Dead Elves have in common? We both don't give a hoot or something. Like to say like he doesn't care about something. I'm just so cool. It's so cool. But yeah, you should watch it.
Maybe when I run out of other things to watch.
That's gonna be forever though.
I know. I got
a list and a half.
I got a list and a half. I do. But no, I respect this one. Just kind of 2 shows, and I hear they're great. I did hear a lot about it though when the new one was going on.
Yeah,
is that,
a lot of people watched it.
Over? Or
it is. Yeah, it was only a 1 season thing.
1 season thing.
And that it might be that they are going to do like every few years another show that has kind of like a subtitle to it.
Sure. That's the way to do it sometimes.
Yeah, for real.
Alrighty. Ready. My next one. That's How to Train Your Dragon. I figured you saw this one coming. Another one of those many franchises that just was like a core part of my childhood. Like, as far as like TV, Ben 10 was like, that was the show, and I think How to Train Your Dragon is probably the most like influential films. Like, I said that about the Karate Kid as well. I guess I'm really harping on that, but like, this is such a special trilogy of movies. I think, and you haven't seen them, right? You haven't went through them.
Yeah, I've seen the first one.
First one, good start. That's better than some of the others.
It's like what, a quarter of the way through.
Well, if you count the like 16 seasons of TV and all the specials.
Did not count that.
Which I have not either. I mean, I love the movies. I think they're some of the greatest, like, DreamWorks. I think this is the peak of DreamWorks. Like, I don't think DreamWorks even is. As much as I love DreamWorks, there's some good stuff. Like, I love the Kung Fu Panda. I love Puss in Boots. Like, there's good DreamWorks stuff. I think these are just on the next level. And I think most people would say, I think it's definitely on the list of, like, best trilogies of a movie. Like, I think it's definitely in that conversation. And their world building is so fascinating. I love, like, the Viking lore and how they do it. And I think the journey of Hiccup and Toothless is just one of my favorite duos in fiction, and see how Hiccup grows up throughout the 3 films and how he evolves and how he becomes a chief. And obviously, like, the major death in 2 is imprinted in my mind as, like, that was one of the first times, and you haven't seen it yet, so I won't spoil away too much, but, like, it was like, oh, films can have consequences. Oh, hey, this guy can come in and cause trouble, and characters can die, and there's no, oh, I actually fell down a cliff and I was all right. Oh, there's no, like, he was actually saved by this dragon. No, he's dead, and you have to deal with it.
Who is dead?
He's dead. He's gone. You have to, and now you have to buckle up your bootstraps and get the work done, because this person killed off someone you love. Get to work. And it's like, for like an animated movie, like we talked about this prior, but like with like the Avatar, but like when you are making such great films and you're still under that contrast of like, this is a kid's movie. Like, I think it's so much more impressive what you can do. And I think for me, set the bar higher for a lot of these like kids films, because it's like, yes, they're made for kids, but look what they were able to do. Look what they were able to pull off and such. Kung Fu Panda 4 just came out, and like that kind of frustrated me a bit, because like Kung Fu Panda 1, 2, and 2, like 1 and 2 especially, were like, hey, let's just make some of like the darkest kids films you've ever seen. And then the 4th one's just like, yeah, so like my standard gets higher with a lot of these kind of films. I love it. I think it's phenomenal world building. Like I feel like it has almost this like Pokemon of like this like Pokemon effect where like, hey, each person has their own dragon, and each
Yeah,
dragon is his own species, and each species has their own powers and abilities, and there's the fun there of getting to see like, oh, we get to meet a like a Night Fury. Oh, that's a Stingerback or whatever. Like each one, you get to learn all the species and stuff like that. The shows and stuff, I am not as well equipped with, although the ones I've watched I thought were really good. Like it's complicated because there's been a lot. Like they did
sure, yeah,
2 seasons on Cartoon Network, which were great, and then Netflix did like a 9-season show for a while, and then they did like 2 other shows, and then they had one on Hulu that's like 100 years, and it was like 500 years inside the future. So like there's a lot of lore that I'm just like I'm not caught up on everything. As much as I love some of these franchises, I can't keep up with all of it, but I love it. I'm excited for the new movie to come out next year. I'm nervous for a live action one, but see how it
yeah. Live
goes.
action one's wild. Like, how are they gonna make that work? They're gonna need
I
like Game of Thrones ass budget. Like Game of Thrones is one of the most expensive shows in the world, and they didn't use dragons that much because they couldn't afford it.
I
So
think it's either going to be phenomenal or terrible because you have the whole
sure,
crew
yeah,
coming back for this one. Like the person who made the original 3 films, they're coming back to do this one. Like every news that like comes out about it, I'm like, that sounds really good. Like it sounds like
yeah.
they're really they're using like a like physical set. Like they're on like I don't know, like all the sets we've seen so far look gorgeous. So I'm hopeful. Hope it's good, but also it could look awful. Like I think live action dragons could look really cool. Like
Yeah.
you like the things they can pull off in those movies are gorgeous. So hopefully they can do this one justice. All right, I think this might be your last project
Yeah, I think so.
here, and that's Battlestar Galactica.
Oh
I
man.
wasn't sure if it was a universe or not. I just threw universe at the end. I was like, I
Yeah,
don't
so there's so many things in the Battlestar Galactica stuff, and like this is the one on the list where there's enough projects in it that it's easily a franchise, it's easily a universe, but
right.
only the main project is the one I actually really like. Like there's the original 1970s series, then they did like a 1980s follow-up series, then they did the reboot series in 2003, which is the one that I think is one of the best television shows of all time. That's what this picture here is from. And then following this, they did a prequel called Caprica that got cancelled after a season. They did one called Blood and Chrome, which was like this online series that had kind of younger versions of certain characters in it. And then they had movies like Razor and The Plan and stuff that kind of build out the universe. But the only like thing in it that's legitimately just fantastic is the main show. And even then, you have a lot of people who hate how the main show ended. But I think it's just I think when it comes to science fiction, like you can't beat it. It's realistic sci-fi
Yeah.
in terms of like this is like these military guys in what feels like submarine combat inside of this giant ship, and the whole thing is about survival. So like the basic concept is these things called Cylons, which are like they're people who can look like humans. They show up, they destroy all the human colonies, and then the surviving humans have to get out of there. But like the first episode is called 33. And the reason why it's called 33 is because every 33 minutes on the dot, the Cylons catch up to the survivors. So they have to like jump away as soon as they catch up. And it's just this hour of just intense best television premieres you've ever seen in your life, where it's like people are like they're all falling asleep at their desks, they're like losing shit because of stress, they're making people take meds to keep them awake, sort of thing, because everybody needs to be active and ready to go like at a split second's notice. And like everybody's spread out over different ships as well, so you have kind of the president on their own ship sort of over here, and like everybody has to protect that ship, and it's so well done. But it gets so dark towards the end as well. You've got characters like just like shooting themselves rather than live, because like things are so grim on the Battlestar Galactica. There's like constant mutinies and coups and stuff like that, people trying to take over the ship. It's like you've got like executions and stuff. Like it's a dark show, but it's great. You should watch it.
I on the list. No, I
Put it on that list.
that's another one of those shows that like you've said for years, hey, you should really watch. And I was like, hey, I'd love to do that at some point, but like it's nowhere near on that giant list of things I want to watch at some point.
No, sure.
Like
I know sci-fi isn't really your thing.
yeah, it's tough for me to get into sci-fi. Like Expanse I really want to do soon. I think I might.
Expanse is very good.
I
Expanse is
might.
very, very like Battlestar Galactica. Like people
Yeah,
always compare the two of them.
I could see that. Yeah. So even like Doctor Who, like I love Doctor Who, but sometimes it's hard for me to like make time and sit down and watch the show as much as I love that. But I've heard great things about it. I've heard it's one of the franchises of all time, or
it's very iconic.
So yeah. So you would say it's an amazing show, but not a good franchise. It's like a.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like I think the other stuff is good, but like this was born out of a Star Trek show. And the Star Trek Voyager, the one with Kate Mulgrew with the first female captain, that the concept of that show was Voyager gets stuck on the other side of the galaxy and they've got to like find their way home. And one of the main writers on that, Ronald D. Moore, he left Voyager and made Battlestar Galactica because he was not a fan of how Voyager fixed everything at the end of every episode. Like, despite traveling across the universe on their own, they were always back to normal by the end of the episode. So he was like, I want to make a show where things don't get fixed, where it's just non-stop, things get worse and worse and worse.
Wow.
And then that's what Battlestar Galactica was. So like,
I can respect
it's crazy
that.
good. Yeah.
Consequences for their actions.
No, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. I love it. Maybe someday. Maybe I'll have to. This whole episode is just like a list for let's go. I gotta watch this. No, you gotta watch this. I haven't seen this. I haven't seen this.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this last one. So this was one I picked last minute because we had picked up 5 and they're like, all right, now we're gonna do 6 each.
Sure.
And I was like, what franchise was like a big part of my childhood that I wanted? And again, like I don't think about this franchise a lot because I kind of grew out of most of it, but I did kind of I wanted to give it a shout out, and that's Power Rangers.
Damn. Okay.
Like
surprised.
As a kid, like I think like the first 3 shows that was like it was like Ben 10, Power Rangers, and Bakugan, and like Power Rangers was a very big part of like one of my big interests when I was little. And I watched a lot of it. Like it doesn't feel like it now because I've missed so much and like there are gaps in my knowledge, but I think I watched like all of the first like 10 years worth of Power Rangers. Like I think out of like 35, I think I've seen like 17 to 20 of the shows. Like
yeah.
I don't think about it a lot because again, there's a lot of like pieces of my knowledge that I don't have. Like there's a lot I've missed out on, especially the more recent stuff. I really fell out on, but like so much of that early stuff is so ingrained into my pop culture. And like I'm a 2000s kid, so like a lot of the early stuff like weirdly enough I probably shouldn't have seen, but like I watched all the 90s shows, all the shows that took place during the 90s. I've seen all that. And it was some of my favorite pieces of TV growing up and some really cool stuff. And like Tommy is like one of the greatest fictional characters to this day. Like if you've seen the show, I feel like even people who don't know the franchise know like Tommy Oliver is a character. Like
Jason, he was the guy I was like hyped at. He's like when that post-credit scene in 2017 where he was like Tommy Oliver, like that was so exciting.
David Jason Frank like was my role model growing up.
Yeah.
Like and he was like the first of his kind to be like, hey, I'm gonna be 5 different Rangers. Like this so chilly, just like I'm red and I'm white and I'm green and I'm red. Like he could fill out a whole team of just himself. It's I don't know. And there's so much Power Rangers. Like I would say, like inspired so much other pop culture stuff. If that's the original stuff, or even like the American stuff that we have here that I grew up on. I generally miss it. And there's days that I'm like, I would love to actually go through and finish it. Because I've seen so much. Like I spent so much of my childhood doing it. I was like, it'd be cool if I could say I've seen them all. And I'm personally very excited because they're currently rebooting the franchise.
Yeah, I saw that
on Netflix. I think they're doing multiple stuff, but like the main thing is like we're going to be streamlining it for a slightly older audience. We're starting a new franchise, so you can kind of
The Last Ronin.
Yes, I'm excited for that because I've actually thought that's kind of the move Power Rangers should go for a while. Because as much as I love the cheesiness of Power Rangers, and I think you should definitely keep some of that, your audience is kind of older now. So I think consistently doing Nickelodeon shows, as I would love that to still keep going, and as that current timeline is officially wrapped up with the latest show, I think you do slightly need to market to an older audience who is now in their 30s, their 20s, who want to enjoy the stuff, but maybe it's a little too much for them, which is kind of why I fell off, because like I loved it, but like I kind of wanted a little bit of, I don't want to say higher brow because I feel like that's like disrespectful, but like something a bit more serious now that I'm a bit older, kind of thing.
You want the tone to change a little bit.
Just a little bit. And I think like 2017, I think they kind of like went too far the other way. Like I think it went a little bit too dark. Like as much as I love that movie, I enjoyed that movie a lot. Like I think it was a little too edgy. So it's like it'd be nice if you could find this balance.
Yeah, middle ground.
Yeah, and I think the movie that came out last year for the 30th anniversary.
I didn't realize it released a movie last year.
Oh yeah, well it wasn't. It was like a 45-minute special, and it was kind of like for like 30 years, and like it's still very goofy, right? But also like you start the movie with like one of the actors, because like the actors, like the OG Yellow Ranger died about like 15 years ago or so, and you start the movie with like you literally killing the character off in the first couple minutes. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, like it's a bit darker now. You're going, and there's a bit more of a budget now, so that was cool. So that's kind of the future of it all. I'm open to it. I'll maybe hop back on. But yeah, that's all we have here. That's
the franchise. It's the best of all time.
The best of all time. I would be down doing this again at some point with some other franchise.
Sure,
like, there's a lot of like, I'd be down to do like a Breaking Bad. I know like we didn't.
Yeah, I was thinking about including them, and I was like,
that was Lord of the Rings.
Galactica.
A lot of franchise. Doctor Who is on that list. I would assume. Yeah, so maybe at some point we could do this again. I did kind of want to talk about one last thing, because I would just generally very curious what your opinion on it is, if you've watched the show at all.
Sure.
Just as we're kind of wrapping up here, and if you haven't seen it, we'll just close it real quickly. But Heroes is getting another.
It is, series? Yes. They're bringing it back for a third thing. I've seen the first season. I'd stopped after season 1 because everybody was like, season 2 is really bad. It ruins the show. So I was like, alrighty, I won't be back then.
Yeah, that's what's been holding me back, because like that's the one thing I've heard the entire thing of it, where it's like I've heard like season 1 is one of the greatest seasons of TV ever made, and then it has like the biggest drop off of all time in TV history.
It's got Talbot from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. playing this guy called, what's his name, like Nathan Petrelli, something, where he's like this, like he's this cool character in it. Mm-hmm. But you enjoy it. He's got Zachary Quinto as well from Star Trek.
There's blood work. Yeah, there's a lot of
blood work. Yeah,
blood work. There's a lot of actors I know from like things. I was like, oh yeah, there's a lot of like Once Upon a Time actors. There's a lot of actors I know from things. And would this be a show that you would jump back onto? Like, would you catch up for this, or are you like, nah?
Yeah, I'd suffer through to season 2 to get back to it. It's that show that came out around the same time as like Lost and all that.
Yes.
So I think like people are just getting burned on like second seasons of things. But I mean, I never thought season 1 was that crazily good.
Oh really?
I just thought it was solid. But it's similar to like how I feel about Firefly, where everybody was like, Firefly's a great show of all time, needs to come back. And then like you go back and watch season 1, and it's like, it's fine. Like season 2 would have been good, but it's nothing that like you're kind of like, oh, I need to see this, get a season 2.
Was it about the like time that it came out, kind of, or like at that time?
It was probably a big, like it was very kind of original and new. But today it's kind of just another random TV show. Like I think like a new season kind of defeats what made the original so good at the time it came out.
Yeah, I heard from what I heard, it was like, I don't know if it happened in season 2 or if it was like later on, but like the writer's strike really.
Yeah, that was end of season 1 or into season 2 to that, because there is only 2 seasons, I think.
Okay, and then they did the spinoff. They did the
they did spinoff as well. Yeah.
Yes, which I heard was even worse. Which is
I did hear that as well.
I will be very curious, and like this might be like eventually
like 4 seasons.
4 seasons of the show.
No, I did not realize that. I thought there was 2 seasons.
And then they did a couple seasons with the other one, which I hear was like god awful.
Yeah. Okay. So the one after was a miniseries, that just did 13 episodes.
Oh really?
And there's 4 seasons of the main show.
That's not too bad then. What, 5 seasons? That's not a bad run.
It's all. If it's all bad, if it's bad except for the first season.
Yeah, that's true though. I think I would do it just to see, because like I thought about just doing the first season and nothing else, but like I would be curious to see what the new one was. Like this is like a modern superhero fan, like, and I know it's not superhero superpower, so it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's a superpowers related kind of. It's kind of like the Tomorrow People, I guess.
Yeah. How do you like establish yourself in a world where superheroes are everywhere, right? Like superhero media is
got to do something different.
How do you stand out now? Because like at the time it was like one of the only superhero shows on TV, like this and the Cape, right? I think that was on around that time.
Yeah, the Cape was around that time as well. 6 seasons in a maybe.
Yep.
As Abed would say about the Cape.
I understand that reference totally. Yeah, I'm curious. I'll maybe catch up.
What's Grok?
What's that?
Why does your Twitter say Grok?
Is it trending or something?
Oh,
What?
maybe. My Twitter doesn't look like that, so maybe that's why.
It's
Like in the
different.
corner, like underneath messages and above lists.
Oh, it's under trend. Hold on. Let me down here.
No, like see on the side. Like see where your notifications are.
Hmm.
Yeah, see
Um.
underneath messages and above lists.
Oh, I don't know.
What is that? Yeah, what
Premium
is Brock?
subscribers. Oh, it's
Oh, it's
AI.
AI.
It's
God
AI.
damn. That's new.
Let's
I've not
promote.
seen that before.
I don't use AI unless I'm getting sponsored. So if you
Yeah,
want to sponsor
same.
me, Grok, let me know. Give me money
Get
and
out of here, Brock.
give me money, and then maybe we'll reconsider. Uh,
Wild.
yeah, this was fun. Thank
It
you,
was.
Connor,
It was fun.
for joining
Thank
me
you for having
today.
me.
Why is my thing all out of whack? What's happening here? Uh oh. Oh well, we'll just do this. It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Thank
We're
you.
back.
Thank you, Connor, for joining us. This was
Not at
fun.
all.
We should hopefully be back next week with a little video game themed episode.
Fallout best video game adaptation.
We'll talk about Fallout. We'll talk about maybe some other. I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna do. I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna do. I can tell you already. I'm gonna try and watch a couple of those movies that were on the
Oh,
giant
yeah?
list, because I was like, out of that giant list of like 50 games, I was like, I've maybe seen 8 of these things.
Yeah.
I should probably watch a
Well,
couple.
ones you want to watch, I'll concentrate on the ones you want to watch.
Yeah, I might do Five Nights at Freddy's because I do want to watch that.
Okay, I've already
I
seen
might
that, so that's
do
okay.
Monster Hunter World. I might do. I don't
I've
know.
already seen that, yeah.
I'll check out a couple. We'll talk about
Okay.
it later.
Yeah.
Connor, anything you're working on that you want to be like, yo, do this thing?
Fallout review maybe tomorrow.
Fallout. We'll go check out his channel and check that out. It'd be good.
Do the little Fallout thumbs up thing. Zach, where's my
There's your
Fallout?
thumbnail. Yeah.
There he is.
Oh yay!
Thumbs up. Let's go.
For me, same as always. Hopefully, I'm going to try and get my Walking Dead thing out Saturday. Hopefully, I'm going to try and binge it and get done with season 8. I want to be done. I want to be done with it and move on to greener pastures.
Get past it.
And then Monday we'll have our X-Men 97 thing up. I assume that's the only show we have this week. But
more Fallout.
Fallout.
Could have Fallout this week as well.
We're gonna be like give us time to catch up with it. But
yeah.
X-Men, that episode, we're gonna talk about it for 2 hours. I guarantee you. So I'm very excited for that to happen. Again, anything, guys. I hope you had a good one. Thank you everyone who watched today. Thank you to. Let me do that.
Bye.
Today. Stranger was here. 3 Dubs was here. Harper, I've never seen you on here before. Thank you so much for watching. We're always great to have you on here. This loser's here. I don't know who that is.
Wait.
Get him out of here. I'm gonna block him.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
Block him.
Toss him out.
Guys, I want to see you guys later. Bye.